When we build an application for our end user, the application is of no use if there is no data. And when there is data, you need the data structure to handle the data for your application. Today, we are going to discuss and learn about one of the most prominent data structure in JavaScript is called array. Not only with JavaScript, with many other programming languages, array exists. And if you have to master those programming languages, you have to master array as well. In today's video, we are going to get very deeper with array, starting from very basic concepts of what is an array, how to create, how to deal with it, to the extent of some of the mastery of understanding the methods from JavaScript array with real use cases and real world examples. I don't want to call it as a crash course. Let's call it as a master course because we are going to learn everything possible, everything that you need with JavaScript array to use that in your application. Are you ready for it? So hey, this is Tapas and I would like to welcome to this particular video where I'm going to learn JavaScript array. But before we do that, I want to call out a few things, a few suggestions for you. This is going to be a long video. So you should not be doing hurry to complete this. Also, looking into the time length of it, you should not be feeling like, oh man, this is too big, let me stay away of it. No, it's not like that. Let me tell you how to get this thing done and how to like it. A quality learning is often like taking and enjoying the great meal. Once you get great meal in front of you and want to eat it, you will do it slowly, you will enjoy it, and at the end of it, you will feel like, oh man, I had something really cool. Any quality learning is also like that. Don't do hurry in completing that. Rather, take into bits and pieces, enjoy that part, validate whether you have learned it correctly or not. Once that is done, then move into the next one. Complete the entire thing at your own pace with your understanding and feel empowered that the time that you have given to learn something it's of a great use. Now I'm going to show you the entire syllabus that I'm going to cover in this video. What you can do, you can go to some length and then do the task that I provided at the end of the video. Do the task, come back, and again do the next portion of it. Again do the task, come back, do the next portion of it. That's the way that you can proceed. That's one way that I would suggest to you. Whatever it is, please do the task that is provided. I've given you 50 plus tasks to accomplish, and those tasks are like quizzes, and some of them guaranteed that you will be facing in your interviews as well. So I hope it makes complete sense to you. With that, without any further delay, let us get started with understanding and learning array in JavaScript with lots of hands-on. Let's quickly understand what are the things we're going to cover. So first we'll get started with what is an array, how to create an array, how to retrieve the elements from an array, how to add and remove elements for an array, then how to copy or clone array in JavaScript, how to determine if a value is an array, because many times you have to do that condition and then do something else, how to do destructuring in array. That's why we're going to understand about destructuring concept and then how to apply that on array, how to assign default value to a variable, how to skip a value in an array, then about nested array. We are going to also learn about rest parameter and spread operator are used heavily in the modern JavaScript. Then some of the destructuring use cases like how can you swap values in the array using destructuring, how can you merge two arrays using destructuring. Then we're going to talk about in depth of the length property. Then we'll get into JavaScript array method. It is grouped into few sections. The first section is about all the methods that deal with the create, remove, update, and access arrays in JavaScript. So these are all such things. These are all such methods that will help you to create, remove, update, and access elements in an array. Then we'll go ahead and start checking what are the static array methods that are available and how they can be useful. Here we are going to talk about one important thing called array-like. Then we'll talk about array iterator methods. This is where some of the methods that you must be using in the day in, day out. We are going to talk about them with their use cases and real world example. That's where filter, map, reduce, find, all this thing will come into picture. After that, we'll talk about immutability. What is immutability in programming? What is immutability in JavaScript? And what is immutability means to JavaScript array? We're going to talk about a few methods that bring in immutability in JavaScript. And finally, we'll be talking about the task, quizzes, and the interview questions. Now, you can always go back to the section of task, quizzes, and interview sections and try to see like what are the tasks I'm talking about. Otherwise, you can come to this task.md file. The link to this particular repo is given in the description of this video. You can come to that particular repo and then check the task.md file over here and you can find all these tasks are listed for you. There are more than 50 tasks for you. I hope that you enjoying solving this with all the things that we'll be learning in this session. So what is an array in JavaScript? A pair of square brackets like this represent an array in JavaScript, and we can keep the elements inside these square brackets with comma separated value. For example, I can create an element inside an array, say number 1, and if I want another element to be stored inside an array, I'll be doing it with a comma separated value like this, number 2, 3, like this. So in JavaScript, arrays can be a collection of elements of any type. This is very important to understand that the elements you will be inserting in an array, that can be of any type in JavaScript. It means that you can create an array with elements of type string, boolean, number, object, or even with other arrays. Let's take an example. Let's create something called mixed array. As we have learned, we can create this with the subscript or the square brackets, and inside that we can create values or the elements like 100 is a number, then we can put true, which is a boolean, then we can put a string, maybe an object as well. The specialty of these elements inside an array is like each of the element holds a position inside an array, and that particular position we call as index. So index is the position of an element in an array. That is what is known as index. And index always starts with 0. So it means the element 100 is at the index 0, the element true is at the index 1, element tapaScript is at the index 2, and this particular array, empty array, is at the index 3, so on, right? So it always starts with 0 and ends with what, depending on how many elements are there in this particular array. So the number of elements in this array are 1, 2, 3, 4. So index will always starts with 0 and index ends with the length of the array, means number of elements in the array, minus 1. So index will start with 0 here, then 1, then 2, and this is the 3. Because there are 4 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4 elements we are able to see over here. So 4 minus 1 is 3. So that means the index will start with 0 and ends with 3 over here. That's how it is for array. When we're talking about the length, very interestingly, JavaScript arrays are not of fixed length. You can change the length of an array anytime to a positive numeric value. We are going to learn about it in depth, as we have seen that there is a separate section for array length as well. Now, as we know what is an array, let's learn how can you create an array. By the way, you have already seen a way to create an array, isn't it? But that's not the only way how you can create an array. Let us understand all possible ways. One of the most straightforward way to create array in JavaScript is using the literals. Let us create an array of salad. All of us like salad, right? It is made of different kind of fruits and vegetables. So let's create a salad, and salad is the collection of different fruits and vegetables. So it means that this is the right candidate to represent as an array. So we'll give this square bracket, and inside this square bracket I can now put all the ingredients that I like to put in my salad. So let's put them. I'm representing them with emoji, but when you are creating this particular array, you can also write, instead of an emoji tomato, you can also write a tomato. These both things are strings, but I feel that emoji might look a little more attractive. So let's create a salad with this many elements. Each of the elements are string. Inside the string, I'm using different emojis. So here I have a salad array that is created with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elements. And at the index 0, there is a tomato. And at the index 6, which is like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there is an avocado, right? So this is one of the straightmost way to create an array in JavaScript. But there is another way also you can create an array in JavaScript using something called arrays constructor function. Now, what is a constructor function? If you have gone through my JavaScript object video, there I have explained what is a constructor function. You must be already knowing it, but let me explain that very quickly. Constructor functions are something which look like a function, but by convention the name of that should start with a capital letter, and it uses the this keyword to make sure that it can create the property and assign the value to the property of an object at the runtime. So how it will be? So if you want a car object to be created, you will create a constructor function called function car, and maybe the car will take a model name, and then we'll have the this keyword to create the property and assign the property value from the parameter. It should be model. So here it will be model. Now, if you want to create the instance of this particular car constructor function, what we'll be doing, you'll be doing const BMW car equals to new keyword, the car constructor function, and you pass the model as BMW X1. So it means that now this BMW car will have a property called model. It's an object. It will have a property called model, and the model's value will be this BMW X1. So if I just do console.log of BMW car and come to the console, I'll be able to see this car object. Can you see this one? There is a car object which is having model and model's value. So this is how a constructor function will be used to create different instances of that particular blueprint or the object type. Now coming back to our example, we were talking about salad. Now let's create the salad array in a different way using the array constructor function. The array constructor function is nothing but array. By convention, again, the first letter of it will be in a capital letter. And here in the bracket, you can pass all the elements using which you want to create the array. Let us pass the same elements with which I had created the salad. So I'll copy them and I'll pass it over here. Now, just by doing this, it is not going to create array for you, because when you're using the constructor function, you have to use the new keyword to create an instance of that particular type. So here for the car, you were creating BMW car. Here for the array, you will be creating a new array, and the new array you can store it in a variable. So for that, I'll be using this new keyword, and this is going to create an array instance for me, or array object for me. That instance is nothing but another salad, I would say. So I can actually hold this in a variable called another salad equals to this. So now if I print both console.log of first salad and then another salad, let's go back to the browser and see the output. So I see this is my salad and this is my another salad. They look similar, aren't they? Yes, they look exactly similar with the similar kind of elements in them. But are they really similar? If I do console.log of salad triple equals strict equality with another salad, I am going to find false, because though they look same, they are not the same array. They are two different arrays created into different memory location, and there are two different references that JavaScript is managing and maintaining at this point in time. Though the value looks same, but they are in the two different locations in the memory. So when you equate them, that's the reason you get a false. Here, one thing you have to be a bit careful about, especially when you are creating an array with a constructor function. Let's create an array with a constructor function like this: const 2 equals to new array of 2. What do you think the output will be? Is the output is going to be an array with an element 2? Because if I just match it with this one, what is happening here? I'm doing a new array and then passed all the elements. Here also I'm doing new array and passing one element, an integer 2 or a number 2. So are you expecting that this 2 variable will hold an array whose element will be only one, and that particular element will be number 2? Let us do a console.log and let us go to browser. I am seeing something very odd. I'm not seeing something like this which I had expected. Rather, I am seeing an array which is having two elements. That's great. That's why it is showing 2. And if I expand it, I'm seeing the length is 2, but it is saying empty into 2. So it means that it had created some empty slots, two empty slots in my array, but it hasn't created an array with the element 2. This is what I'm asking you to be careful about. When you pass just one argument to the array constructor, you are not going to create an array with that argument as an element. Rather, you will create an array of length of this number that you are passing, and none of the elements will be defined in it. That is the reason you have seen that empty slot. However, if you pass this one, just let's change it, 1 comma 2. What will happen in this case? In this case, JavaScript is going to create an array with two elements. First element will be 1 and the second element will be 2. Want to see that? Now the value of 2 is changed to an array which is having two elements. The first one is 1, second one is 2. So just by missing one argument over here and assuming that it is going to create one array with one element with the number 2 is completely a misconception. Apart from these two methods, there are a few other methods like Array.of, Array.from, and the spread operator, using which you can also create arrays. We will be learning them when we touch base on array static methods and the spread operator and the rest parameter. So I hope the initial ways of creating an array, the process of creating an array is clear to you. Great. I knocked off the first three items because we have learned them. Now let's understand how to get elements from an array in JavaScript. You can access and retrieve elements from an array using its index. We spoke about the index already, right? Index is nothing but the position of an element in an array. So if I have an array, let's say ARRAY, I can specify the index of it in the subscript or the square bracket. This is going to return me the element that is situated in that index. So this is going to return me this particular element, which I can actually hold inside a variable, right? So it means if I go to this salad or another salad, so I have this salad, right? Now, if I do salad of index 0, what do you expect? You expect a tomato, isn't it? So salad of index 0 is going to give me the tomato. What if I want to retrieve or access this broccoli? What I'll be doing? In what index the broccoli is in? Broccoli is in the index 2 because this is starting with 0, 1, 2. So if I do salad of 2, salad of 0, 1, 2 is the broccoli, isn't it? So I got the broccoli. What if I do salad of 5? So I'll start with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll get a carrot. So this is the output that I'll be expecting. Let's go to the DevTools once. I get tomato, broccoli, and carrot as expected. Though we can retrieve the element of an array using the index value, but remembering the index value of an element might be tedious at some point of time, right? You might want to retrieve the element of an array using loop. That time you don't have to really remember the index, rather you have to run the loop using the condition and then you retrieve the element from an array, right? So similarly to the salad array that we have, if I want to run a for loop to retrieve all the elements from that array, I can pretty well do it. Let's understand that. First, I will initialize the counter variable of a loop and I'll initialize with 0. Why I initialize it with 0? I initialize with 0 because array indexes starts with 0. Now array indexes starts with 0, but till what point array indexes goes to cover all the elements of an array? It goes till the length of the array minus 1. That's what we have learned already. So that means this counter variable I can very well go till the salad array's length minus 1, and in that case I have to do I less than equals to. That means I starts with 0 and it goes till the length minus 1 of that particular array. And then for each iteration I will be incrementing because I want to take it as a loop, and the loop will happen starting with 0 till it reaches the last element in an array. Now after this I am going to do a console.log of element at a particular index, which is I is this particular array, and then I am passing the index over here. So far you had passed all the hard-coded index. Now I am passing the index dynamically because I am looping through, and for each iteration this counter variable will be updated with this I++. I'll have the updated value inside this. I'm passing each iteration's value to retrieve the element on that particular index number. I miss the semicolon here. I'll give the semicolon and let's go ahead and see the output now. Excellent. So I have everything printed from 0 to 6th index and from tomato to avocado. So that is where using the loop you can access each of the element in an array. Let us now learn how to add elements to an array. Again, there are a couple of ways that you can add elements to an array. As array is a data structure that has a collection of elements from the 0th index till the end index, which is like length minus 1, you can add an element at the beginning of an array or also at the back of an array. So let's understand both the methods. One method through which you can add the element in an array is called the push. So the push method adds an element into the array and that element gets added at the end of the array. So we have the salad, right? We have created over here. Now, how about adding some peanuts to this salad? the salad doesn't have a peanut. So you can do salad dot push and then add some peanut to it. Now if I do console dot log of salad over here, what you would see, salad already had this many elements in it. Along with that, we'll also see a peanut got added at the end. See over here, before it used to be 7 elements, now it has 8 elements, and we are able to see a peanut got added. This is great, but if you want to know what exactly happened when you are calling the push method on the salad array, does it return anything? So let us take this const ret equals to salad.push. Before printing this salad, let us print the value of this ret as well. Let's see what exactly it prints. As you're seeing over here, it is printing the number 8. It means that after the insertion of one element at the end of the array, the push method returns the number of elements currently there in that array. So RET is going to be the number 8 because before 7 elements were there. Now you have added one more. So this will be number 8, and here you will have all those 8 elements. So sometime we make a mistake understanding that, oh, we have called the push method on the salad array. So I'm going to get a new array with this particular element got added. No, that's not true. Also, another thing that you have to keep in mind over here, the calling the push method on the salad array, it changed the source array itself. Salad had 7 elements before. After calling push, the same salad is having 8 elements. So it means that it actually mutated, means it actually changed the source array to insert a new element into it. This is a very, very vital point. Please take a note of it. The other way that you can insert an element to an array using a method called unshift. The difference between a push and unshift is, unlike push, which actually insert an element at the end of an array, in case of unshift, it is going to insert an element at the beginning or the start of the array. So let's do the similar thing. We have a salad now. Let's do salad dot unshift. Let's add more peanuts. Also, let's see what unshift returns. So we'll be doing const unshift return, and then let's print both unshift return value and the salad value, expecting the salad value will change after doing this unshift. Unshift where it put the elements at the beginning of the array. What is the array salad is having? Array salad is having now 8 elements with all this plus a peanut at the back. Now we are going to see another peanut at the front as well. So we are seeing a peanut at the front is got added, and the return value is returning a number 9, which is nothing but, again, just like the push method, is the currently after unshift operation how many elements are there in the array. Before it was 7 elements. Due to push we have inserted one at the back. With unshift we have pushed one more at the front, so become total 9 elements, and we are able to see the actual output of the salad elements as well. So that's about adding element to an array. Now it's time to know how to remove elements from an array. Let's do that. The easiest way to remove a single element from an array is using the pop method. Every time you call the pop method, it removes an element from the end of an array. Okay, it returns the removed element, and it always change the original array, just like push and unshift. So right now the salad array is having 9 elements, one peanut at the front, one peanut at the back, and in between there are other vegetables. So let's do like console.log of the current state of salad first, and then let's do salad.pop, and then let's print console.log of salad again, so that we understand what is the difference. So first time the salad has printed, we can see all the 9 elements, but after the salad.pop is called, we are able to see that one element has gone. We are seeing only 8, and at the back, at the end of it, there was a peanut which is missing right now. So that means from the end of an array we are able to remove an element using salad.pop. Now here the question was, what does pop returns? It returns the removed element. So for example, if I do const pop return and do console.log of pop return, I will definitely see the peanut over here, because pop is going to remove the peanut from the end, right? So it's going to give me the peanut. I can see this peanut over here. line number 54. So at the line number 54, it is printing the peanut because I have removed the peanut, and that's why the original salad array got changed and one of the element from the end has been removed. Now, just like the unshift, we got one more method called shift, which remove an element from the array, but this time it will be removing from the beginning of an array. That's the difference with shift and pop. The remaining cases are exactly same. Calling the shift method on an array returns the element that it is removing from the beginning of the array, and the actual array itself will be mutated. No new array will be created after the operation. So if I do the same thing, I'm just going to copy from here to here for you and going to change a few things. For instead of pop, I am going to call a shift, going to rename this variable called shift return, and going to print shift return over here. So by this time, salad had already lost the last peanut due to pop. Now I'm going to call salad.shift. It is going to lose the first peanut, also the front peanut, and then is going to return that particular peanut over here, and the actual salad will be changed where now the front side and the back side, both the side, none of the peanuts exist. So let's go ahead and see the output over here. Yes, we're able to get the peanut from the line number 60, and again it came back to 7 because right now from the front also one peanut has gone. So line number 60, I'm seeing the peanut and the modified salad value. I hope it makes sense to you. So 4 methods so far. One is push, unshift, pop, and shift. 4 methods for adding and removing elements from an array, and all these methods mutate the source array, change the source array. Please remember, point it out, note it out somewhere. Now let's learn how to copy and clone an array in JavaScript. You can copy or clone an array to a new array using a method called slice. So you will be doing const. So of course now I have a salad, you know that. So we have a salad, right? Now we are going to create a copy of this salad. What we can do const salad copy equals to salad dot slice. The moment you do slice is going to create a new copy of this particular salad array and assign that to this particular variable. Now here one thing you have to understand. Unlike all the methods that we have seen so far, which used to mutate the original or the source array, slice method does not mutate the source array. This is where the immutability also comes into picture for JavaScript array. There will be methods which will not modify the source array because they deal with the array in immutable way. It means that you're not going to change the actual array, actual object directly. Rather, you create a copy of it. So that's what slice method is doing. And now if you do console dot log of your original salad, whether it is equals to this particular salad copy, I guarantee that you are going to get a false over here because these two are completely two different instances. They are never same even though they are exact copy. So first let's do a console.log of salad copy also. Console.log of salad, then a salad copy, and then equate them together. Let's add some text over here so that we can identify this clearly. Salad before copy, salad after copy, and then here we are equating them. Okay, let's see the output. Salad before copy, salad after copy, exactly same looking, but it's returning false when you're equating them because those two are not the same references or the same arrays. Those are two different arrays. There is another way that we can also create copy and clone of an array using the spread operator. We are going to see that in a while. Now we learn how to determine if a value is an array in JavaScript. We use the array constructor function, right, to create an instance of an array before. It also has a static method called isArray. So you can write it like array.isArray. In this particular method, whatever you pass, it can validate whether it's an array or not. So for example, if I pass this, what do we expect? This is an array, right? It is inside the square bracket bunch of elements. So this expects a true. Similarly, for each of them, array.isArray of just tomato is going to return me false because just tomato is a string. It's not an array, right? It's an emoji with a string. So it's a string. So it returns false. If I do array.isArray of an object like that, it's going to return me false because this is still not an array. I'm creating an object with the tomato as a key and this particular emoji as a value. So this is going to return me false. If I do an empty array, this is still going to return me an array because though it is an empty array, there is no element inside it, but still this is an array. So I hope this is clear how to determine that a particular value is an array or not. Now you can do one more thing. I can create something called const arr equals to 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4, and then can use this variable also to check array dot is array arr determine whether it's an array or not. In this case it will be definitely returning me a true because arr holds a value which is an array. Make sense? Now let us get into one very important concept called destructuring. Destructuring is more of a syntax that's going to save some time for you from writing lengthy code. And if you master the art of destructuring, you can actually code faster. There are some opinion about destructuring to be bad in case of very complex syntaxes. I leave it to you guys to determine that whether it's good or bad for you. But let's learn what is destructuring, because there are a lot of code since last few years have been put in JavaScript or the JavaScript ecosystem heavily with the usage of object and array destructuring. So it's important that you learn them as well. Let's get started understanding what is destructuring and with some use cases and the real world example to master them. So with ecmascript 6, which is like ES6, we have some new syntaxes to extract multiple elements from an array. Okay, one or more elements from an array, and while extracting also assign them to variable in one go. So for example, you have the salad array, isn't it? So if you have to create a variable and assign an element from the salad array, what you'll be doing, you'll be doing something like const tomato equals to salad, and tomato is in the index number 0, so you will be putting index number 0. Now if I tell you, okay, get mushroom also, what are you going to do? Similarly, you are going to do mushroom and index of 1 because mushroom is in the first index. Now if I tell you, can you get me carrot also? So what you will do, you will do carrot, and what will be the index number? 0 1 2 3 4 5. You will do 5. Now you have written 3 lines of code for this tomato, mushroom and carrot, and assigned the elements value from the array using its index value. Now if you want to write it with more shortcut method, more shortcut way, instead of doing this, you will be using something called array destructuring. For that purpose, you have to use an assignment operator, which is equals. The right side of the assignment operator can be your array. So let's take this particular array, a subset of our salad array itself. And the left side of the assignment operator will be the variables which will hold the value after destructuring. But one key point over here is that those variables also will be inside the square brackets. So it means that if I want to destructure, extract out this tomato and assign that to a tomato variable, I will be writing it like tomato. If I want to do same thing for mushroom, I'll be doing comma mushroom. If I want to do same thing for carrot, I'll be doing comma carrot. So now I have created 3 variables, and each of these variable will be assigned with the extracted value from this array respectively and automatically. So tomato will hold the value of this tomato, mushroom will be holding this mushroom, carrot will be holding this carrot. But one very vital point over here that people make a mistake, you must have to specify either a let or const over here. So let's do const. So right now, what it is going to do, it is going to create const tomato equals to this tomato symbol, const mushroom equals to mushroom, const carrot equals to carrot. So now if I just print them using console.log tomato, mushroom and carrot, they're just going to print them one by one, tomato, mushroom and carrot. You see here, tomato, mushroom and carrot. That's what it is about the destructuring. I hope you understand the destructuring syntax. Now to do the same thing without destructuring, you would have written these 3 lines of code. Right here, instead of number 5, you would have given number 2 for this particular array. So the restructuring syntax saves you from writing lots of code. This gives you a massive boost in terms of the productivity in your development. So that's why it is important to know. At this point, I want to introduce you to this initiative called 40 Days of JavaScript that I'm running. So, in the 40 Days of JavaScript initiative, we are learning JavaScript from beginner to pro in different modules. So, for example, I have already covered a bunch of modules that cover very fundamentals of JavaScript like wasting, scope, execution context, this keyword, loops, conditions, everything. Also, make you master in debugging JavaScript code, then a module on the DOM itself. After that, you learn about the asynchronous JavaScript. Then you learn about the advanced concept of JavaScript, which are like oops, prototypes, etc. And then you go beyond the basics, beyond the advanced, to learn about how to do performance optimization, how JavaScript works behind the scene, about these web APIs, how to get prepared for the interviews and all these aspects of it, right? So if you don't want to miss that out, you can come to my channel, and under playlist you will be able to find 40 days of JavaScript. Just can get started with it, all the videos in the serial form so that you can take them up. I'm also providing a free progress tracker for you so that after every lesson you can just practice the thing that you have learned. You can take the note down, at any point in time in future you can get back to that. The progress tracker link is in the description of each of the videos in the 40 days of JavaScript that you can grab completely for free. I hope you explore it, like it, and enjoy it. With array destructuring alone, you can actually take that in your advantage and perform a few more operations. For example, you can assign default value to a variable while doing destructuring. You can skip a value from an array while accessing the values using destructuring. You can also do nested array destructuring. So these three things, let us see back to back so that we can understand how we can do things like this while doing array destructuring. Let's assume you have an array of a single element, which is this tomato. Okay. Now, if I ask you to, can you destructure this tomato? You will say, yes, I can do it. I can do it like const tomato equals to this. Though it doesn't make sense this way, because just one element, you can always do const tomato equals to this particular array 0 index. But there might be more element array tomorrow, right? Now, there is one additional use case that you can do. We can assign a default value to a variable while extracting the element of an array using array destructuring. We have learned about array destructuring, isn't it, already? Now, we know this is how the array destructuring will work, and there will be a variable called tomato created, const tomato, and it will be assigned with a value which is this particular string. Now, I want to create one more variable along with it, say mushroom, but array doesn't have any mushroom. If array doesn't have any mushroom, this particular guy is going to be undefined because there is nothing exactly I'm assigning to it. But if I want, while destructuring itself, I can now assign a value to it. So now I will have two variables. One is tomato, that will have the value of this particular tomato, and I'll have a const mushroom which will be initialized with this mushroom. So if I do a console.log of them, I'm going to see console.log of tomato is going to give me this tomato, console.log of mushroom is going to give me this mushroom. So I have this tomato and mushroom on line number 96 and 97. Tomato and mushroom on 96 and 97. Great, this is one use case. Now there could be another very interesting use case. Let's take that. Let's take our earlier array, right? This particular array where you had a tomato, mushroom, and a carrot. Now let's say from here, I want to extract only the tomato and carrot. I'm not interested in mushroom. How are you going to do it? One way of doing it will be const tomato equals to this particular array 0 index. Const carrot equals to this particular array second index, 0, 1 to second index, and you ignore mushroom. That's one way. But if I ask you to do it with destructuring, this is the tricky question people ask in interviews also. They want to know like how much of the destructuring you have hands on, right? So how are you going to do this? Pretty easy. You do like const, of course you have to do, and then you want to destructure, right? So tomato will be inside tomato. So I'll be having tomato as a variable. Now carrot, if I put over here, what will happen? This mushroom will be assigned to this carrot. So I cannot do this. Now, if I want to assign this particular carrot to this particular variable, that means I have to skip this one. To skip this one, the only way you can do is like do another comma over here. So it means now that tomato will be assigned with this tomato value, carrot will be assigned with this carrot value, and in the first position where you have mushroom, There you have just kept it blank. You skipped it. Now, if you do console.log of tomato, you are going to get a tomato. Console.log of carrot, you are going to get a carrot. And you skipped mushroom altogether. So this is another usage. While you are doing destructuring, you can skip a value in an array as well. Now let us go into nested array and how see the nested array destructuring works. Like many other programming languages, in JavaScript also the arrays can be nested. What does it mean? It means that you have an array like 1, 2, and we told in the beginning that the element of the array in JavaScript can be of any type. Right now I am only having number. You can have an object, right? We know that. You can in fact have another array inside it. So you can have something called 4, 5. So now this particular array is having 3 elements. The first element is a number 1, second element is a number 2, and the third element is an array itself. Don't get confused thinking that the third element is number 4, fourth element is number 5. No, it's not like that. Okay. Here you have an array altogether. So this is what is called a nested array. When an array is placed inside another array, then the inside array will call as a nested array. And this nesting can go to any length. So for example, inside this nested array, you can have one more array where you can say this has 6, 8, 9. Here you can have one more array. You can just keep going. You can have things like q over here, one particular element. So here you see the first array in the 0th index you have a number, first index you have number 2, and the last index you have a big array. Inside this array, first index you have number 4, second index you have another array. Inside this array, first index you have number 6, second index you have number 8, third index is another array. Inside that there is only one element, which is a string. This is how you should be reading. So this is how the nested array works. Now if you have to destructure element from a nested array itself, how are you going to do it? Let's take some example. Let's take an array called fruits. What do we have over here? We have a bunch of fruits, and there are few vegetables also. You can call them fruits as well. Now from here, how can you access this particular carrot? What will you do to accomplish this? One way that you can accomplish is this carrot element is not inside the outer array. The carrot element is inside this nested array. And the nested array in what index? The nested array at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4th index. So first thing that you can do over here is const say veg equals to fruits of index 4 is going to give me this particular array, isn't it? Is going to give me and return this particular array. Now I have assigned this array to this veg variable. From here, if I have to retrieve this guy, what I'll be doing? 0, 1, 2, correct? 0, 1, 2. So I'll be doing const carrot equals to veg of 2. This is going to give me this carrot. Awesome, isn't it? Now these two lines 112 and 113 you can actually combine into one line. How? You can do something like this. Fruits, first you get the 4th index, which is this element. Then on top of that you want to do the second index, which is like this carrot. This is another way. If you know matrix from mathematics, you know this matrix like row column way. That's how we used to define matrix as well. So this is how you can retrieve it. Now if you have to do it with destructuring, how are you going to do it? And now this is where I feel destructuring is little complex and weird. I would rather avoid using destructuring in these cases. I would rather use this particular syntax in terms of accessing a particular element I'm looking inside the nested array than doing this particular syntax using destructuring. So to retrieve carrot, I have actually used the methodology we have seen while skipping an element from an array, right? Using the comma and keeping the position empty. So I have to go till carrot. I don't want to retrieve any of these guys. So for all of these things, I have just escaped with the empty and comma, and then just mapped carrot's position wherever it is. Rest of the things are completely empty with comma, and I'm going to get the carrot out of it. So this is what is going to give me carrot. Now, if you have to write this syntax with destructuring, and if you want to pick just one element from nested array somewhere, I won't be doing this, to be very honest, but it's good to know that this exists. I would rather go for this syntax when it comes to nested array. Please practice them. Going to the task.md file, pick up the tasks that are related to destructuring. I'm sure like you are going to enjoy them more. Now we are going to talk about two interesting things with arrays. One is called rest parameter, another one is spread operator. Let's understand them with examples. Since ES6, we can use this 3 dots yes, these three consecutive dots as spread syntax and rest parameter. Okay, this is again helpful while doing array destructuring, but it depends on where exactly you are using these three dots to make sure that you are using it as a rest parameter or you are using as a spread operator. Now for the rest parameter, these three dots appears on the left side of the destructuring syntax. What is the destructuring syntax? You have something like const your variable list equals to your actual array, right? This is what your destructuring syntax. When you use rest parameter, these three dots appears at the left side of the assignment operator. When you do spread operator, these three dots appear at the right side of your assignment operator. So rest parameter always goes with your variables. The spread operator always goes with your array value itself. This is how you should remember, because people get confused sometimes saying that, oh, these are the three dots only. When it becomes rest parameter, when it becomes spread operator, right? So this is the differentiation. So first let's see example with rest parameter. So let us take an array, something like our salad. And now I am going to destructure this in a sense like I'm going to create something called a tomato. Then I'm going to create something called a mushroom. That's fine. But now I'm fine with this tomato variable having this tomato value, mushroom variable with this mushroom value. And at this point, I don't know what to do with this rest of the elements. Instead of creating different variables for those elements with this structuring, I want to put these elements like from this broccoli to avocado inside another array so that I can deal with it later point in time. If your use case is like that, then for whatever the elements you end up creating the variables and assigning them, for rest of the elements, means the rest of the element, you can use something called a rest parameter, that you will do three dots and then give the variable name. I'm giving the variable name as rest so that it is very evident that I'm talking about rest of the elements. Instead of rest, you can give any other name. So now if I do console.log of tomato, this is going to give me this tomato. If I'm going to do console.log of mushroom, it's going to give me mushroom. But if I do the console.log of rest, this is going to give me another array that is holding all these elements. Want to see that? You have it over here. All the elements from broccoli to avocado, these 5 elements are in a different array altogether. So this is the power of your rest parameter through which you can collect rest of the elements in an array for which you don't want to create the variables individually. Now let us understand what to do with the spread operator. Spread operator will come towards the value. So with the spread operator, you can create a clone or copy of an existing array. You remember a method that we had used before, slice method? Using slice method, we could clone and copy, and we told like we'll be learning something called a spread operator later. Now is the time. So if I take const my salad equals to this salad again, and I do const my salad copy equals to, I will give this square bracket, then 3 dot, and then the array that I want to spread. What happens over here? Understand this. When I use these 3 characters, means the spread operator in front of an array, the element of the array gets spreaded. Spreaded means it comes out. You spread things in front of others, right? So it gets spreaded means each of the elements, imagine, is going to come out of my salad. So tomato comes out, then mushroom comes out, then broccoli comes out, so on. All the elements comes out, and those sits inside this square bracket. Means it is going to create one more array itself, isn't it? That's why you are creating a copy of an array, clone of an array, but again, a new instance, again, a copy alone, not the same reference, right? Console.log of my salad copy is going to give the same salad element for you. But definitely, if you try to do my salad triple equals my salad copy, this is definitely going to give you a false because different references. So I hope now you are aware of both rest parameter and spread operator, their use cases, and you will be able to use them. Again, please go back to the task. See what are the tasks you can do with the things that you have learned so far. That's why I told in the beginning of the video itself that take logical breaks, don't do hurry, learn things. A quality learning makes you a better developer, better programmer always. Now let's look into a couple of use cases using the rest parameter and the spread operator. We are going to look into how to swap variables. We are going to look into how to merge two arrays. So let's do that. So the first exciting use case about swapping variables. Let's take two variables. this is my first variable, one emoji, a bit sad, and the second variable is another emoji which is bit happy. Okay, so I have two variables, one is first and second. Now I want to swap the value. That means first value was the sad emoji, is going to be the smiley emoji. Seconds is the smiley emoji and is going to be swapped with the sad emoji. Okay, now to do that, you can do it with the destructuring concept pretty well. If you don't want to do it using destructuring, you have to again take a third variable, temporary variable, and you have to assign the value of first to the temporary variable and the temporary variables value to the second. Like that you have to manage. But instead of doing that, you can achieve it with destructuring quite well. For example, let's create an array using these two variables value. So first, as we have to swap, I will be creating it with the seconds value first and then with the first value. Now, this particular array has two elements. The first element is the smiley, second element is the sad emoji. Now, what I can do, I can use the destructuring in this way. Left side is always about the variables that we want to create, isn't it? So that also comes inside the square bracket. Here I can say inside the first variable which I have already created, I'm just now assigning the value. That's the reason I had created this variable using let not const, because using const you cannot reassign it, using let you can reassign it. So let first was with the sad. Now if I do first comma second, the first will have the value of second, which is this guy. The second will have the value of first, which is this guy. Now when I'll do console.log, first will have the smiley face, second will have the sad face. So this is one of the exciting use case where you can swap values using destructuring. Let's take another use case where you can merge two arrays and create one single array. How can you do that? That's something that you can do very well using the spread operator. So to do that, let's take two arrays. Here I have taken two array, one array called emotion. Maybe I should call it as emotions. And I have two emotions over here. And I have another array of veggies where I have vegetables. Now let's make emotions and the vegetables together. I don't know like whether if you like vegetable or not. I like some vegetables, some I don't. So why for some vegetable I will have this emotion, some vegetable I will have this emotion. Let's merge them together. The way that you can merge them is using the spread operator. For that, what you have to do, take an array and then spread all the elements from the emotions array. This is how you spread it, right? You take it out and you give it, you spread it. And then you also spread all the elements from the veggies array. Now, first spread will spread this to bring it here. The next veggie spread will spread all this and bring it here. And these two are already separated with a comma. So that means if I hold this one inside a variable, let's say call emotional veggies, because emotion and veggies are together, it will have all the elements from emotion, comma, all the elements from veggies. Let's do a console.log. Let's see what it prints. Awesome. So it prints the emotional veggies with emotions and the vegetables. So you know how to merge them as well. JavaScript array methods are very exciting because that is what solves a lot of use cases, right? We're going to see them, with a lot of real world examples. But before we go there, there is one more thing we should be talking about. That's about the length property. Let's learn that. So length is a property in JavaScript array. It's not a method. You would do an array, an array dot length. You won't do it like a method. Rather, it's a property, so it doesn't have the parenthesis. Okay. So I've created an array arr1 with 3 elements. Let's create one more array. Say arr2, and now I'm doing new array of 7. Do you remember what does it do? In the beginning only, array creation time only, you have learned, right? It's going to create an array of 7 elements, and each of the elements will not have any value. It will have the empty slots. We have learned that. So now if I do console.log of array1.length and array2.length, what will be the output? Of course, this is going to give you 3 and this is going to give you 7. No doubt about that. I have 3 and 7 printed over here as expected. Now let's learn something more. What will be the largest value of array's length? What is the possibility? Means how many elements that an array can hold. Let's try to understand that. The array can hold the element till 2 to the power 32 minus 1. That many elements array can hold, which is like this many. One interesting thing about array's length is you can modify it. Yeah, you can do that. So for example, you have done this arr1 with this many elements, right? You have this value 3. What if you do arr1 dot length equals to 2? What it will result into is now array's length from 3 shrink to 2. So that means the last element, the 73, is removed automatically. So if I do a console.log of arr1 over here at the line number 166, I'll just see 11 and 21 because its length shrink to 2. See, 11 and 21. I don't see the last element anymore. Now, if I try to assign this to 2 to the power 32, this particular length, which is way beyond what is accepted for an array. Array length can be maximum 2 to the power 32 minus 1. What will happen in this case? I am getting an error, uncaught range error, failed to set the length property of an array, invalid array length. You seeing this? Recently, I have created a video on tapaScript channel about error handling. That's why I have explained what exactly this range error means. This is another situation when the range error might happen because you are trying to assign a length of an element which is way beyond its accepted range, right? Similarly, if you want to assign it to a negative number, -1, it's going to give you the same error because you cannot actually do it with a negative number as well. And if you want to empty the array completely, just assign the length to 0. The quickest way, the easiest way possibly to empty an array, remove all the elements of an array, is by setting the length to 0. So now console.log array1 is going to give me an empty array. Great, no? So these are the things that you need to keep in mind when you are dealing with array. Array.length property has its own advantage, of course, for looping, for getting the element out of an array. It's important, but it has that additional quality that it might end up into a range error, or it might end up creating an array of a reduced length or an increased length or completely empty array, depending on how are you dealing with. The same thing, the last thing that I can actually show you, instead of 0, if I do 9, what will happen? Array1.length, what do you think the output is gonna be? Array1 was initialized with 1, 2, 3 elements. Then I have increased to another 6 elements. So first 3 elements will be retained, but rest of the 6 elements are going to be filled with empty slots. As you see over here, 11, 21, 73 retained, and there are 6 empty slots, empty into 6, but still the length is 9. Okay, so these are the things that you need to really know into master. Again, task is important. Please do those so that you can master them automatically. If you have not taken any breaks so far, continuously learning and doing the things, I would strongly suggest you take a break now. Before we start with the JavaScript array methods, and the first thing that we'll start learning about how to deal with the creation, remove, addition, update, or accessing elements in JavaScript array. So bunch of methods that we're going to talk about. Let's go get started with them. First, we'll do concat, then join, fill, includes, indexOf, reverse, sort, splice, add, copyWithin, flat, and we'll also see how to group elements in an array using key. Excited? Let's get started. Let's get started with the concat array method. The concat method basically merges one or more arrays and then return the merged array. We have already seen about merging two arrays using the spread operator, isn't it? Similar to that, we can also use the concat method. And the concat method is also an immutable method. It means that if you're performing the operation on the array using the concat method for concatenating them, the source arrays are not going to get changed. Let's consider two arrays. I have one array called first, which is having 1, 2, 3, 3 variables, and there is one called second, which is having 4, 5, 6, again 3 variables. Now I can create one merged array saying first the array on which I want to concat another array, I have to pass as an argument. So the second one I'll pass as an argument. Now the merged array will have the element from both first and second. As I see here, the merged array is having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements from both the arrays. Now quickly, if you are interested to check the first and second arrays, what happened to them, you will certainly see them unchanged. The first one will have 1, 2, 3, the similar to this. Second one will also be unchanged with 4, 5, 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6. Great. So you understood what concat is. Now you might be thinking that we can concat only two arrays or we can merge two arrays. No, it's not like that. With the concat method, you can go to the n level. It means you can take an array and concat many other arrays to it. There is no such limit that how many arrays you can concat. So let's take one more example. I have first, I have second. Now if I want to have third as well, let's add third here. And then if I want to concat all of them together, I'll be just keep passing them as an argument. Now the merged one will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7, 8, 9. 5, 6 and 7, 8, 9. This is the merged array. Next, let us learn about the join method. As the name suggests, is going to join something. But what it is going to join? Is going to join all the array elements together. But when it is going to join all the array elements together, what else is going to do? So the join method joins all the elements of an array using a separator. This is the key point, using a separator, and ultimately returns a string. Okay, the default separator that join method uses is the comma. So let's take one array. This is an array of emotions, and I'm going to join all the elements of it. So I'll say const joined equals to emotions dot join, and I won't pass anything. Now if we do the console dot log of joined, let's see the output. So you have this string where all the emotions are now joined using the comma as a separator, because by default if you don't pass a separator to the join method, comma is the separator. Now if you want to separate them out with some other character, what you can do, you can pass that separator. The separator can be one character like a pound sign, or maybe a combination of these three characters. So let's see, let's assume this as a separator. Let's see what the output will be. So you see that all the emotions, all the emojis are separated now with a new character that I have created as and used as a separator. Okay, so wherever you need a string from the elements of an array, you will be using the join method. What if you take an empty array and then you do a join? What do you think the output will be? By default, you know that the separator is what? Separator is the comma by default. We have seen that. But here you are having an empty array. So if you have an empty array and you do a join on top of that, this is always going to return an empty string, because there is effectively nothing to join. So it means that it will return an empty string. So remember, these are some tricks. Sometimes people ask in interviews to test your knowledge, so this might be helpful. Up next is the fill method. That's another fantastic method that helps you to fill an array with a static value. You can change all the elements of an array with a static value, or you can select a few elements that you want to change with a static value. But here one point that you have to ensure that you understand, that unlike the concat method, the fill method mutates the array. It changes the original array. Now while teaching this, while doing this array course, what I'm feeling is at the end of the course I'm going to create a table for you. In that table I'm going to list down what are those array methods that are mutating your source array, means mutable. What are the arrays are working in the immutable fashion. That particular table might be very useful for you. If you keep it in front of you, you won't forget, you won't make mistake. So coming back to the fill, let's take an array of colors. So I have the array of colors. Now I have red, I have blue, I have green. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this array of colors and fill it with pink. Now what the output will be? It will be the colors array that's filled with pink, pink and pink. And this is not going to give me a new array, rather this is going to mutate the same array. So if I now do console.log of colors, I am seeing all in pink, right? I have used this particular method in real world, recently. I had created an application where there are different kind of cards and the shapes. Then right side, there are a few options of some shape and some colors. So if you click on those buttons, everything, all the cards are getting changed to the same color and the same kind of shape. That's why I use that fill method, where I was filling each of the element of the array, basically each of the cards, with the same selection that user was making. So these are also useful, pretty useful methods that you will be using it. Okay, in this case, we have filled the array with the same thing, all the elements. But what if you want to do things selectively? How will you do that in that case? It's pretty easy. So if you want to change only this blue and green to pink, but you want to retain the red as it is, what you have to do, first you have to specify, as you have done before, that what you want to change with. Then you have to specify from which index you want to start the changes. I am giving from the first index, because array starts with 0th index 0 is red, 1 is blue. So I'll want to start with blue. And then you have to give it where do you want to end with. Here, the last one, you don't give it as an index. Rather, you give it the element, the particular element number that you want to cover. So for example, if I go by index, I will be giving 0, 1, 2, isn't it? So instead of, if you give 2, this is not going to work. What you're going to do, if you want to cover both blue and green, you have to give it 3. So the last index, you have to always go in the length way, not in the index way. The first one is always the index. So it means that you are going to start from the first index and you are going to cover till the third one, till the third element. So what is the third element? First element, second element, third element, till the third element. So first one, the first parameter is always the index value from where you want to start. That is where 0 and 1. Please remember this difference. And the last one is always about the length, till what length you want to go. So I want to go till the green. That's what it is. Okay. So what is the output that I can expect over here? I can expect the red will return as it is because the filling is starting from the first index, from the blue, and it will go till the third length. So third length is the green one. So the blue and green will be replaced with pink. So I am going to see red, pink, pink. So I'm seeing red, pink, pink. I hope you understand that. The last permittable value is always the array's length. That is one thing. The maximum value that you can put over here is the colors dot length. Next method is the includes method. The includes method of array determines the presence of an element in an array. If the element present in the array, it will return true. If the element is not present in the array, it's going to return false. Very straightforward. Let's take an array of names. I have a bunch of names over here. I have Tom, Alex, Bob, John. And then let me write console.log names.includes Tom. What do you think the output will be? Tom is already there, so it should be true, right? Similarly, if I do July over here, whether the names includes another name called July, the name July is not existing inside this array, so this is going to be false. So the first one is going to be true, second one is going to be false. I see that first one is true and the second one is false. Now, a tricky question for you. What if instead of small t, I give a capital T over here? What do you think the output will be? Whether this is going to be true or this is going to be false. So that's going to be false because this is definitely case sensitive. And you have to remember that the case matters a lot. So whenever you are doing an includes, it has to match exactly. Okay. So that is where it becomes true now. Previously it was false. The next method, indexOf, one of the most used array method, I would say. The indexOf used when you want to know the index position of an element in an array. You can use the indexOf method to get that particular value. It returns the index position of the first occurrence of that element in the array. So in an array, you might have the same element repeated multiple times. But when you use indexOf, if the element exists, it always give you the first occurrence of that particular index where that particular element is specified. If it doesn't find, then it will return -1. Let's take a bunch of names again. And now if I do names dot index of Alex, what am I going to find? I'm going to find the index of Alex. What is the index of Alex? Array index starts with 0. So 0, 1. So this is going to return me 1. What if I do names.index of Rob? Do you see Rob as an element in the names array? I don't think you see that, right? So this is going to return me -1. So when you get an array as a data from backend, you can always check a particular element exists in that array or not. And then you can tell like, if it exists, do this. If it doesn't exist, do this. For existence, you can also always check for includes if you want to do exact match, or if you want to figure out the index of that particular element you are searching for, then only use indexOf. And while doing that, if that element is not found, then it is going to return -1. Just like indexOf, there is another method called lastIndexOf. IndexOf is going to tell you the first occurrence of that element in the array, right? Even if there are multiple things. The other method, lastIndexOf, that helps you in finding out the index of the last occurrence of that element. Okay. And again, like the indexOf, lastIndexOf is also going to return you -1 in case that element is not found. So let's do a lastIndexOf example. If I just change this John to Tom, what are these two lines going to output? Names.index of Tom is going to give the first occurrence. So this will return 0 because Tom is the first one. I have added one more Tom over here. This indexOf is not going to cover that Tom. If you want the index of this Tom, you have to use lastIndexOf Tom, right? So here you are getting the Tom over here. Got the point? So this is how the index of lastIndexOf differ. So this will return 3 because Tom is at 0, 1, 2, third index. So this is about the indexOf and lastIndexOf. We will now learn about another very simple method called reverse. The reverse array method, as the name suggests, reverses the element's position in the array so that the last element goes to the first and so on. So let us take the names again. I have Tom, Alex and Bob this time. If I just want to reverse it, I'll do names dot reverse, and if I put this guy inside console.log, I'm going to print out the elements which is now in this reverse position. For example, Bob will go to the first, Alex will be in the middle itself because if you reverse position, it will stay there. Tom will come at the end. So you see Bob, Alex, Tom compared to Tom, Alex and Bob. And as you have seen this example, you can already notice is like it is mutating the original array. That's why names.reverse itself is returning the changed array. If it had returned a new array, we would have taken the return value of names.reverse into a variable and then would have done the console.log of that variable. But we know for sure the reverse method modifies the original array. That's why we took the liberty of printing it directly over here. So remember this as well. Well, now the sort method. This is probably one of the most often used array methods I have seen. Okay. Now, how sort method works? As the name suggests, it sort the element of an array. The default sort converts the element, each of the elements type to string and then sorts them. Okay. And the default sort order is ascending. So these 2 points I want you to remember. The first point is the default sort method converts the element types into string for each of the element. And the second point is the default sorting order is ascending. When you do sorting, there are 2 ways you can sort. One is the ascending order, another is the descending order. Now the default order is ascending. Now let's see an example of default sort. Let's take the name again. Let's take the array names again, Tom, Alex and Bob, and I just do names dot sort. That's it. Now the sort method is another method which mutates the original array, just like the reverse we have seen before. So it means that now the expected output is going to be Alex, then Bob, then Tom, alphabetically sorted, isn't it? So let's put this inside a console.log and put it like after default sorting. So let's see the output. Okay, so after default sorting, I found Alex, Bob and Tom. This goes really great. Now let's take one more example. Let us take an array of some artist. I'm going to do console.log of default sorting of artist array, and then as usual I'm going to do artist.sort. What do you think the output will be? So the expected output is definitely the name starts with A, comes at the top, then B, then C, right? Then J, then L, like that. So let's go ahead and look into this. So first is A, then I have B, then I have C, then I have J, then I have L. Now this is good. This works great. But what if I want to sort this one in a descending order? Because by default, it is in ascending order, right? I am seeing the A, then it goes to the next one, B, C, like that. But I want to bring the L first, then J, then C, then B, then A in this fashion. So if you want to change the order of the sorting, or you want to sort something which is non-string, you have to write something called a comparator function. The comparator function will be your own business logic through which you will compare each of the element and then you will push them either up or push them either down to make sure that you are developing your own sorting algorithm. And that comparator function, or the sorting algorithm, you can pass as a parameter to this sort function. Can you see one? Let's write a comparator function to make a descending sort. So we'll do artist dot sort. Now here you can pass a comparator function. So for now I'll be doing a function, and this function, this comparator function, takes 2 arguments because it compare two elements of an array, right? And then fix the position of it. So the two arguments will be two elements in the array. That's why I'll be passing A and B. And here the comparator function logic is something that you can write in this way. You can return either of this value, either a 0, that means there is no change in the position, or a -1, that means you have to move up and down, or a 1, which is also result into a moving of the elements up and down. So for descending sorting, you will be writing the comparator function logic like this. If A is equals to B are same, if A or B are same, then there is no point of moving these two elements. For example, here if you found Tom and Tom, both the elements are Tom, and if you're comparing among themselves, you find both of them are same, A is equals to B, so you really don't have to change their position. They can be wherever they are and they can actually sit there. But if that is not the case, in that case, you again compare if A is greater than B. If A is greater than B, if you want a descending sort, that means you will be returning a -1. Otherwise, it will be a 1, right? That's how you will be doing the up and down. Now on the artist, this particular array, I have passed a comparator function which is comparing two elements together, finding if they are equal, then there is no movement. If one is above another one, you just do the reverse, and if that is not the case, then you can do that up and down accordingly. So now what will be the output of it? Of course, sort is a mutable method. That means it would have already done this sorting on the artist array altogether. So if I just do console.log here, sort the artist names in the descending order. Let's see if it has done that. Yeah, now I find the name starts with L in the beginning, then J, then C, then B, then A. All right, looks good. Now the next thing, another example worth taking is sorting of numbers. Let's take the ages, as young as age of 2 to the as old of age of 1000. I guess I doubt that people will reach to there, but let's take for example. Now if I do ages dot sort, you see the magic. I just did a sort. So what do you expect? You expect, as an ascending one, you expect the 2 to be the first one, then 3, after that 10, 12, 21, 23, 30 and 1000. That's what you expect, right? But let's see what we get. And for that, let us do a console.log and say age with default sorting. Let's see the output. So we saw the default sorting first bringing 10, then bringing 1000, then 12 to 21. You feel like this is not sorted even, right? Whether ascending or descending, it is not at all sorted, but it is actually sorted. What is happening? JavaScript converted this number 2 to string 2, 1000 to string 1000, and then have done the comparison of them. JavaScript is not comparing their numeric value and deciding what will be the sorting order. Now again, if you have to fix this up, you can copy this particular function to do a descending sorting and pass the comparator over here. Now if you see the output, you will see it is descending sorting 1000, 30, 23, 21, 12, 10, 3, 2. Descending sorting. If you want to do ascending sorting, just change this to 1 and this to -1. You have 2, 3, 10, 12, 21, 23, 30, 1000. So with a comparator function, you can control the ascending and descending sorting of the actual value. And that is where this strict equality operator is what is very useful over here, because once you use this too has to be a number for their equating and getting a truthy or the falsy values. Now it's time to get started with some advanced thing. That's why this ever confusing method of JavaScript array splice come into picture. When I started learning JavaScript array, I was so confused with this method, but I think now I understand. So let me try to explain to you. So splice takes these arguments. One is start, second is delete count, and the third is and item. Now this item can go to any length. For example, you have item 1, item 2, like this. Now if you understand the definition of each of these parameter, then you understand the splice method really well. So what is start? Start is the index from where you are planning to change your array. Now when I say change your array, this is where the purpose of the splice method come into picture. The purpose of the splice method is to delete elements from an array, add a new element to an array, also modify the element in an array. So it's a multi-purpose method, a rockstar method, and that is where it sounds little bit confusing. So start is the zero based index at which you will start changing this array. Okay. Now delete count. What is the delete count? Delete count will be an integer number that will indicate how many elements you want to delete from this array starting from the start position. Okay. So far, okay. Start is the starting position from where you want to change the array, whether you want to add, delete, whatever it is. Delete count is from starting position. If you give any integer number, that integer number indicates that how many items you want to delete from the starting position. If the delete count is 0 or negative, then none of the elements will be removed. Okay. Now after delete count, if you have more elements over here, these are the elements are going to get added. So these elements gets added to the array beginning from the start index. Okay, I understood. Now again, if you don't specify any of these things, still it works. But in this mode, it will only do the deletion of the element. So again, quick recap. I know it's confusing. Start is the starting position from where you want to start changing the array. Delete count, an integer number. If it is 0, none of the elements get deleted. If you do 1 or 2, that means 2 elements from the starting position will be deleted. If you have other items specified after the delete count, those are the items will be added into the position from the start position. Okay. If you don't have any of the items specified over here, the splice method is only going to do a delete. That's it. As simple as that. So along with all this understanding, one more thing that you need to understand, last thing about splice, is what splice returns. Splice always returns the array containing the deleted item. Okay. If only one item is removed, the array of one item will be returned. If none of the items are removed, then the empty array will be returned. Okay. So this is what the behavior of it. Let's take an example. I have the names, array of names, Tom, Alex, and Bob. Now what I'm doing here, I am going to remove from the position number 0, I am going to remove one element. So then which element is getting deleted over here? If I'm starting with the 0th index and I'm going to delete only one element, that means it is only the Tom, right? So name.splice always return the items that it is deleting in an array. Okay, it returns the item it is deleting in an array. So that means Tom is the one that it will be deleting. So Tom will be returned now in an array. So the output of this will be Tom. That's what I expect. Let's go there. So I have Tom. Now let's change this one a bit. Let us add John, because we know by the rule after the count, if I do item 1, item 2, I can add more things to it. Then what is the output over here? What we are doing over here? We are removing Tom and then we are actually adding John to it. What exactly it is going to return? It is still going to return Tom to me because Tom is the one that I am deleting. But if I now at this point of time look back to the names array where the changes happen, Tom has got removed, correct? Because from the starting with 0, the first element Tom has got removed. The names array left with Alex and Bob, and then I have added something called John starting with this position, because I told like when you will be adding the element, that time also it will be added starting with this position. Then what do you think the output is going to be? The output is John, Alex, and Bob, correct? Because starting with the 0th position, I have removed Tom and then I have added John over there. So this is more working like a replacement, isn't it? I am replacing this Tom value using the John value. This is where the splice method is extremely useful. You get to know what you are removing from the array, but at the same time, as you are deleting and you are adding the things, you are able to replace it also. Let's see a couple of more examples. What do you think now the output of the names will be? Let's assume this is not there. Let's do this. Let's do a console.log over here. So from the starting index 1, so that means 0, 1 from Alex, I am not removing any element because my delete count is 0. But I am adding a Zach on the first index, right? So I am not removing any element from this array. Rather, on the first index, I am adding something called Zach. So Tom will be in Tom's place because Tom is the 0th index. On the first index, Zach will be inserted. Alex and Bob will be pushed by one index. So if I see, it will be like Tom, Zach, Alex, Bob. Tom, Zach, Alex, Bob. I hope it is very clear to you, right? Let's take one more example. By the way, in this example, as we are not deleting any element from the array, the splice will return an empty array. We know that by the rule. What do you think the output will be now? Let's go by the same logic. So if you understand this deep, you are really not going to forget and going to get confused about the splice method ever in your life. So now from the second index 0, 1, 2, from this index I am going to delete one element. So Bob will be deleted and splice method will return an array with Bob. We know that. Now again, starting with the second, this particular index, I am going to insert Zach because there is only Zach is to insert. So 0, 1, 2, Zach will be inserted here. So from here, Bob will go off, Zach will come in. So it will be Tom, Alex, and Zach. Tom, Alex, and Zach. Great. So that's all about it, right? And as I told you, like I used to get confused. I've even posted on social media about that the JavaScript arrays slice and splice. This method are ever confusing. How I remember simply, slice is something that copy an array or a part of it, and splice it mutates an array to remove, replace, or add elements. That's how you should be remembering. Splice mutates an array. Slice doesn't mutate it. It creates a copy of an array. Wow, looks like we have made a great progress. We have completed all these methods. We have few more methods to go. Let's start with the at method. Then we'll be doing copyWithin, flat, and we'll understand how to group array elements by the key. So first is the at method. We know about the indexOf. We can identify the first index and the last index of an element in an array. We can retrieve an array element using an index value. But what we have seen that we cannot do much with the negative index. So for example, let's take the junk food that I love. So these are the food I love a lot. And now if you want to retrieve, let's say this guy, this popcorn, how are you going to retrieve this popcorn? Of course, you are going to do this. Junk food I love. And then you're going to do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's going to give you this popcorn, right? But can you retrieve this using a negative index? So for example, can you do something like maybe -1, expecting that things will start from the backwards and going to retrieve some element from an array? No, you cannot do that. That's where the new at method, that is the addition to JavaScript recently, helps you to retrieve elements using both positive and the negative indexes. So how it works? Almost like the square bracket index way of doing it. So if you do junk food I love at of 0, this is going to give you the element of the 0th index, which is nothing but this particular guy. Now at the same time, if you do junk food that I love of 3, what it is going to do, it is going to retrieve me 0, 1, 2, 3. Pizza is my favorite. So this is what I'm going to get over here. Now if you do junk food I love -1, what it is going to give you, this is where it is going to give you this particular popcorn guy. This is again 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, 6, 7. If you go from left to right, it's all positive. But if you want to come backwards towards the front, you have to start the index from -1 only for the at method. So here if you pass at -1, this is going to retrieve this guy for you. So now tell me, what will be the output of this? -5. You won't be counting from left side. Now you'll be counting from right side. -1, -2, -3, -4, -1. Pizza again. Okay, one more quiz for you. What will be the value of this -8? Again, you won't be counting from left because it's starting with minus. You'll be counting from right. So -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8. So it's gonna be this guy, a hot dog. Now, if you do junk food of 10, what will be the output? Either you go from this side or you go from this side. There is no 10th index. So of course the output is gonna be undefined. So you understood how the at method works. It's a great addition. Please use it. The next method we are going to discuss is not so much used in JavaScript. It's called copyWithin, but it's good to know because you might encounter a code while doing a code review or somebody else have written that you want to use. And if copyWithin is there, you need to know like what exactly it does and how it works. It is as complex as the splice method, but once you understand the construct of it and how it works, I think it will be very easy to you. So let's do this. copyWithin takes a target, a start, and an end. So what is a target? Target is an index at which copyWithin will start copying the elements. So as the name suggests, what copyWithin does, it basically copy part of an array to another location in the same array. So it is not copying the element from one array to another array. That what we have seen with the spread operator, we have seen it with the slice. But within an array itself, you are copying the element from one position and to another position. Now to go to another position, you need a target position, right? So this is the target. The first one is that particular target is a zero based index where you will be copying the element sequence to. Okay, so what is start? As the name suggests, again a zero based index at which you start the copying that elements from. So from the start index, you will start the copying the elements from. The target is where you are going to put your elements to. End is an optional operator. Target and start are mandatory, but end is an optional parameter where you will be ending the copying. Okay, so this is how the construct is. Let's understand with some example. So what will be the output of this code snippet as per you? So first is the target. That means on the 0th index, it will be copying to. Third is the start. So that means from the third index, the copy will start. What is the third index? 0, 1, 2, 3. This is the third index. As it is having the third parameter, this is the end. Means till where the copy will end. So 6 is like till this 6, right? It is on the length of it. So that means 4, 5, 6. These three things is going to get copied from the first. So from first we have three position, 1, 2, 3 position. This 3 position, this 4, 5, 6 is going to get copied. So if I just copy this particular source array, it will be easy for me to explain. So this 4, 5, 6, this is what I'm going to copy, because from the third index, which is 4, it is going to start copy until it will go to 6th length, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th length. So it will be 4, 5, 6. These three elements is going to get copied to the zeroth element. From the zeroth element there are again 1, 2, 3 what it can accommodate. So it means this 4, 5, 6 will be copied means it won't go cut from here, it just copy. This 1, 2, 3 will be replaced with this particular copy. So the output will be 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7. Okay, so this is how the copy within works. Let's take one more example. Now I don't have the end here, I have only the target and the start. Target is again the 0th, means the first index. Start will be the 4th index, means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So from 5. If you don't have the end, it will go till the array.length, means till 7. So from 5 to 7, everything that goes to the 0th position. So it means it will be having 5, 6, 7, then 4, 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7, then 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I hope you understand copy within as well. This is again not so useful method, but it's good to know. Let's get started with another important method called flat. We have seen the nested array before, isn't it? That means array inside an array. There will be situations, when you write business logic that you want to flat an array. For example, if you have an array like this particular array within this bigger array, you would like to flat this array to a simple array where all these elements are flattened out and they have placed themselves in the indexes, right? So how are you going to do that? For that purpose only, we have a method called flat. So if I do console.log of arr1 dot flat, I am going to get a flatten array. In that 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, each of these elements will be there specified in their relative indexes. So I got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that it's a flat version of this particular array. So when array flat it, when you call the flat method, it flat in phases or the stages. You can specify to what extent, to what depth you want to flat it out. If you don't specify it, it is always about the first depth or the first nesting, what it is going to flat out. Let's see that example as well. Let's take another array, a little bit complex one, where I have 0, 1 and then an array. Inside that array, I have one element, then again an array. Then inside that array, I have one element, a number, and again an array. And inside that, I have two numbers. Now on this one, instead of array1.flat, if I do array2.flat, what is going to happen? I am going to flatten only the first level, which is like this 2, right? So this 2 will be flattened, but rest of the array, nested array, will remain same. So if I see the output, I will find 0, 1, 2, and you are seeing that rest of the things are still the nested array. 0, 1, 2, and then you have other arrays, right? You are seeing this. Now, if I want to go one more level down, so that means I can do second level of flattening. In that case, I will go to 0, 1, 2. I'll cover the till the second level. So now the output is going to be till 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, and rest of it is in the array. You're seeing how the flattening is working. Now, if you want to flat everything, that doesn't matter how nested the array is. You want to flat each and everything, you will pass something called infinity. Once you do that, now irrespective of whatever the depth it is, all the elements will be flattened into one single array. Let's see that. Now you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looking simple, but it has been created from this complex nested array using infinity. So based on your requirement, you will go for flattening the array to the depth that you are looking for. I hope this is clear to you. Now let's learn something very interesting. It's about grouping the data in an array. Now, though it is grouping the data in an array or array data grouping, but what we'll be using is a method from object. Okay, we'll be using a method from object called group_by, which is added very recently into the JavaScript specification. You can see ecmascript 2025. And if you look into the browser support, these all are pretty new version of it. I remember this was available in Safari to start with, and then it came to all other browsers. I used it with Polyfill before, but right now it is available on all the browsers, most of the browsers latest version, and also with the Node.js and Deno if you are interested in the backend side of JavaScript. But if you are using the older version, you can always get a polyfill of it and you can make it working with a similar syntax. But let us now start understanding what exactly it does, what group_by is going to do for us. So object is having a static method called group_by that helps in grouping the element of an array or any other iterable using the key that you specify for grouping. So let's take this example of an employee array where I have each of the employee details, the employee name, which department the employee belongs to, what is the employee salary. Now I want to group them. Now to group_by, first I have to pass the array or the iterable, and then I have to pass a callback function. A callback function something like this. Now in this callback function, either I can specify a particular attribute or particular key using which I am interested into grouping, or maybe my own logic. Through that logic, I want to do the grouping. Let us first see a straightforward example. I want to group this particular array using the department. I want to see how many of my employees are in engineering department, how many are in HR department, how many are in sales department. Here, the number of elements are few, so you can count it by yourself with mental math. But if there are millions of employees, thousands of employees, it will be hard to compute it. You have to then make use of a method like this. So here I'll be passing the department, the key based on which I want to group_by, and I'll be returning as well the same thing from here. Now, if I take this one into a variable grouped by department equals to, and then do a console.log of group by department. Now I will be able to get a grouped data, a new data structure, which has taken this as an input and group them by the department value. I'll see under engineering who are the people. I will see under HR who are the people. I'll see under sales who are the people. So I see this over here. Under engineering, I have 3 employees. Under HR, I have 1. And under sales, I have 1. If I expand, under engineering, I have Bob, Ravi, and John. Great. Under HR, I have Alex. Under sales, I have Tom. Now, you can even create on your UI like an accordion or something without much computation by yourself. You have an API available on the object called group_by, which is able to group your data, your iterable data structure like an array using a key. Isn't it amazing? So this is one use case. Let's see one more use case, which is even more amazing. What we have done in the callback function, here we have passed a key using what we want to group this data. Now I can even put a condition. I can tell, can you group my all employees who are earning more than 5,000 USD, more than equals to my 5,000 USD, and all other employees into another bucket, because I am interested in salary hike of those employees who are not yet earning 5,000 USD. If you are earning 5,000 USD, I'm not going to salary hike this year for you, right? So To determine that, now I can say const grouped by more than 5000 USD, group by, I am going to take the employee object again, and here I am going to take this callback function. But in this callback function, now I am going to do some logic. What is the logic I am going to do? I am going to play on salary. So I'll be passing salary as before. And then the logic that I'll be returning from here is return if salary greater than equals to, I said 5000, right? 5000, then I will say the group element will be more than 5k, otherwise I will say less than 5k. So more than 5k will be employees who are earning salary greater than equals to 5k, otherwise it's less than 5k. Now let us print this in our console and see whether our logic is working or not. So let's go back. Excellent. So I have two groups now. You see, more than 5k and less than 5k. Let me expand. Less than 5k, there are two employees. Okay. So I have Alex and John. And more than 5k, there are three employees. I have Bob, Ravi, and Tom. So I'm not going to give any hike this year to Bob, Ravi, and Tom. Very sorry. I'm going to do some salary hikes to folks Alex and John because they are still below 5k. Okay, if any of the name matching to any of you, please don't take me wrong. These are just for the purpose of demo. Okay, so this is less than 5k and more than 5k. There are two grouping, and with these two grouping, now I'm able to take some business decision, right? So this is pretty easy. Using object.groupBy, you can group any iterable like array using a condition of your own, or directly with any of the keys or any of the properties of the object that is there in the array. Isn't that amazing? Please practice this. Excellent. So we have covered all these methods along with grouping elements in array. Now it's time to get into other two sections where we'll be discussing about static array methods in JavaScript, discussing about array-like, and then all the iterator methods. But before we do that, I want to talk a bit about immutability and then want to talk about these methods, because just now we have discussed about the mutable version of these methods. For example, we have discussed about reversed, we discussed about sort, we discussed about splice. Now there are immutable version of these methods called toReversed, toSorted, toSpliced. These methods have added very recently just to solve the problem of the mutability of the source array using reverse method, sort method, and the splice method. If you remember the reverse method, we had an array of names and we could reverse the element's position in that array by calling the reverse method on the array itself. This was modifying the source array itself. So this method is something that changes the source array. So it is not the immutable way of working. So in programming, it is required that how much ever possible you manage your code, manage your data changes in the immutable way. Immutable way in the sense you don't directly change the data structure. Rather, if you have to change something, you make a copy of it and then change on the copy. Why it is? Because the data is the source of your truth. If the actual data is getting changed from the multiple points by multiple functionalities, you should have a track of who at what circumstances changing your data. If you don't have that track, if you don't have that predictability, it is very difficult for you at a later point in time to debug and identify all the state changes of your data. So to save from that particular part, it is advisable that you don't mutate your source data, the source truth directly. Rather, if you have to mutate it, if you have to change it, you create a copy of it and then bring your changes on top of that copy. If you have to change again, you again do a copy from the changed one, then again make a change on top of it. That way you have a different snapshot or the different state version of the same data. Now it is very easy to go back and come forward in transition to figure out, okay, at what point in time what you have changed by doing the diff between the previous state and the current state, or the current state and the advanced state. So that is why immutability is very great approach in terms of data handling. So try as much as possible that you don't change your data directly. From that point of view itself, JavaScript is there for almost 3 decades, right? Now there are a lot of things went in and it worked for many people for many years. But as we are working with a lot of modern technologies, that demands us to do program development, application development in much better way. Immutability is one of the factor that you have to take care when you are programming. So JavaScript also understood that the way that some of the array methods works, where it changes the array directly, we need an alternative for those. We need the immutable way of handling those features. That's why for reverse, we have a method called toReversed. That is just the immutable version of the reverse. So let's start with toReversed first. Let's take an array of integer or the numbers. So I have 1, 2, 3, three numbers inside an array. Now, if I want to reverse them, I could have done like items dot reverse. That would have reversed the array, but it would have changed the original array. I don't want that. For that purpose, I want items dot toReverse method. The toReverse method doesn't change the source array, rather it will return a new array that I can now hold inside a variable, and I'll create it using const reverse items. I will see the array elements got reversed. I will see an array now with 3, 2, 1. You're able to see it over here. The array has got reversed now. It is 3, 2, 1. Okay. So right now to prove this, let us do a console.log of items as well. Console.log of items, that is the source array. We will see the items array still retaining the same index for these elements 1, 2, 3, whereas reversed one is the reverse position array. So this is the items array 1, 2, 3, and this is the reversed one 3, 2, 1. So you saw here the toReversed method is not changing the source array, rather it creates a new array with all the elements index reversed. Similarly, we also have a toSorted, which is the immutable version of the sorting method. Let's do that. I have taken an array of months like March, January, February, December. These are of course not sorted. Now let's do a sorting. We will do months dot toSorted. This is the method, and let's hold this in a variable called sorted months, and let us now print both sorted months and the months value in the console. So what we expect here, the months will remain same in this order. March is first, December is at the end, but for the sorted months it is supposed to be in the sorted order. What should come first? What do you think? It should not be January, February, March, December, right? It will be alphabetically sorted. So you see that it is alphabetically sorted here. D comes first, then F, then J, then M. And here, this is the original array that we worked upon. It is starting with March, ending with December. And this case, it is alphabetically sorted with the D at the beginning and M is at the end. Now let's talk about the toSpliced method. So hope you remember the splice method that we explained. The difference between slice and splice. Slice is for copying and splice is for deletion, modification, and adding all the operation with one master method. So I had explained like, it starts from an index, then you provide how many elements you want to delete, and then you provide optionally what are the elements you want to add, right? That's how it works. But here also it modifies the original array. Here names itself was getting modified, but it returns how many items it had deleted after performing the splice operation. Everything remains same, but only thing that will be changed in terms of toSpliced will be, it is not going to change the original array directly. Rather, now it is going to return me a new array altogether that is going to have the changes in it. Okay, so that is where the splice and the toSpliced method will differ. Let's take an example. Here again, the array of months January, March, April, and May. Now let's do const month 2 equals to months dot toSpliced, starting from the index 1. We are not deleting anything, but we are adding February to it. So what is going to happen with this toSpliced? It will work exactly like the splice method. So index 1, what is the index 1 here? This is 0th index, this is the first index. In the index 1, it is not going to delete anything because the delete count is 0. But what it is going to do, it is going to add one element. So at index 1, we are going to see this February is going to get inserted after January. So it will be January, February, March, April, May. That is what is going to be the output when we print the months to variable. So let us now do a console.log of original array, that is the actual months, and then months 2 with the toSpliced method. The expectation here is the months array will be unchanged because toSpliced not going to change the source array, but months 2 will have the change, where at the index 1 we're going to insert the February element. So the output of this will be an array with element January, February, March, April, and May. We see that January, February, March, April, and May for the spliced array, original array remains same. So you understood these methods starting with this toSpliced, toReversed, toSorted are the immutable version of their original methods. Advice is to use these methods, the immutable methods, always, not to use the method which muted the source array directly. Now is the time for another outstanding method that wins over mutability and enforce immutability with JavaScript array, the with method. The with method is comparatively a new addition to JavaScript array method list, but don't confuse the with method with the with keyword that JavaScript already had since long. Now nobody uses that. So what exactly this with method is for? Let's understand that. Let us take an array of numbers. Now if I ask you, how would you change the element 3 in this particular array and set the number 6 here instead? What you are going to do, you are going to do this. You will do numbers, then the square bracket. Number 3 is in the second index, 0, 1, 2, second index. So you'll pass this particular index number and then you will do equals 6. Of course, this is going to change. If I do console.log of numbers, it will change this particular array to 12645. You can see here 12645. This is great. But did you see a problem? The problem here again with the mutability and immutability. You have changed this array directly because you wanted to replace a particular element on an index, but you didn't notice that you have now mutated this particular array directly. Now this might be your use case that you have to change this array directly. In that case, this is perfectly fine. But there are many cases, as I told, that data is your source of truth. You may not want to change the data directly. Rather, you use immutability as a great tool, as a mechanism to ensure that you can change something, but before changing, you can create a copy of it and then make a change to it. As I told, that will make sure that how your state changes happen over the period of time. And anytime if you want to go back to the state and identify why and who has changed to it, you have a better visibility of it, and it helps you to do debugging better way, have a great predictability in the system. So if you don't want to change your source array directly while setting an element value on an index, then you can use the with method, because that comes with the immutability power. What is the with method about? With method takes two things. One is index and another is value. Index is a number. This can be a negative also. It specifies an index value inside an array. I told it can be negative also. Whenever the index value is negative, with method start counting from backwards. When it is positive, with method start counting from the front. Okay, and then you specify the value to replace a value on a specified index with this particular value. This is how the with method works. Now let's see some examples. I have these numbers right already. Now if I want to do the same thing, instead of doing this, I'll be doing this way. I'll say const new array equals to numbers dot with. First will be the index, which is 2 for me, and then the value that I want to replace with. So now this new array is going to produce the exactly same thing if I print over here, but if I do console.log of numbers, this will be unchanged 1 2 3 4 5, but console.log of new array will be changed and a new copy. So as you see, 1 2 3 4 5, that is the original array. Now after change 1 2 6 4 5, the change has happened, but we didn't mutate the original array. Now another thing, this with method also works with the negative index. This is a beautiful thing, and the power, I would say, numbers minus 2 will result into undefined. Now if you do numbers minus 2 equals to, for example, 8, you know what is going to happen to these numbers. Let's print the numbers after this. You see the weirdness of it. Okay, I have printed over here line number 377. So line number 377 output is 1 2 3 4 5, and then which is having a key value pair, key being the minus 2 and the value is 8. This is something that you didn't want at all. You wanted that the computation should happen from the backwards in this original array, and then in some minus 2 position while counting from backwards, you are going to actually replace this particular number 8. That's what you wanted. That didn't happen over here. Now with method can save you from this. So with method, how are you going to do this? The same logic I am going to create. I'm going to comment out this one and then put this. I created another array. Now numbers with, here it is minus 2. Now it will start counting from the backwards. The numbers was 1 2 3 4 5. So -1 will be just like the at method, the 5, -2 will be 4. Now this 4 will be replaced with 8. So what will be the output over here? The output will be, if I do a console.log, it will be 1, 2, 3, 8, 5. You see here, this is the original one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now 1, 2, 3, 8, 5. Now from the backwards, using the with method, we could replace an element in an array. So when you want to seek and replace an element of an array using its index, but you don't want to modify or mutate the original array, please use with. These are the new methods, these are the new controls, and this enables you to do programming with immutability in mind. Kindly use those. Excellent. So the immutability portion is also done. Now we are left with understanding the static array methods, array-like, and the iterator methods. So how is it going, guys? I hope you're enjoying it. Time to take another break. Please take a break and let's come back to start with the static methods. But before that, we want to understand what is array-like, why exactly it exists in JavaScript at all, and what are those array-like you might be dealing with already, but you may not be aware that those are array-like. And then also other static methods that will empower us to deal with array-like and the arrays very comfortably. To explain array-like to you, I have created a small example. In index.html file, I have added an order list. The order list appear like this, number 1 to 10. You can see over here. So I do document.getElement by tag name, passing the li tag. I see that there are 10 tags are there, and this all 10 li tags are pushed inside the square brackets, which we know the square bracket means is an array. So it gives me 10 li tags in an array. Now on array, there are multiple ways that you can loop. One of the way is you do for loop. We'll also learn about other iterative methods. Among that, there is a method called forEach. So I can run forEach on this particular array to loop through each of the element in that array, isn't it? So it means this code should run document.getElement by tag name li, which is nothing but this, returns this collection of li, and I am doing a forEach, which is a method of array to iterate through and do something. Let's execute that. Once I execute that, on my surprise, what I get an uncaught type error. Document.getElements by tag name dot forEach is not a function. So it's saying that document.getElements by tag name, which is returning an array, and I am invoking a forEach function, forEach method on top of it, is saying forEach is not a function of an array. Is that really true? That's not true, because this code over here, document.getElement by tag name li, is not returning an array to me. What it is returning is returning an array like to me. And that is what we are going to focus on right now to learn and master. In JavaScript, we know that objects are used to store multiple values in a complex data structure. What is an object? Object that we create using these curly braces, and inside this curly braces, what we do, we create a key and then assign a value to this particular key. That's how we create objects, and all the properties, which are nothing but a combination of key value pair, will be comma separated in an object. We know that. And on the other hand, what do we know about the array? Array we create using the square brackets, and it can hold the element and an index, and each of the element will be comma separated inside an array. Each of these elements are also indexed because they hold a specific index position inside the array. Now this is object, this is array. Array-like is not an array. Array-like is an object. Okay, array-like is an object that has some behavior like array. The behavior like array is it has index to access the elements and non-negative length property just like an array. So this is the similarity of an array and the array-like. But it is not an array because array has lot of other functionalities. For example, it has methods like push, pop, join, we have learned, map, reduce, we are going to learn. Array-like doesn't have all this. So array-like is an object which has few similarities to array, like its elements are indexed and it has a length property. All right, so let's take one example right now. Here I have created a variable called arr_like and then assign something which looks like an object, isn't it? And the keys are 0, 1, and on each of the key I have a value. For 0 I have the value I, for 1 I have the value am, and for 2 I have the value array-like. Along with this, it also got something called a length, and the length has a value called 3. Now this one, if I do a console.log and see on my console, I am seeing this one printed like this, right? 0, 1. So this is an example of an array like each of its elements are indexed. I can actually now retrieve I am array all these three using the index. I'm going to show you that. And it also has a length property. That means I can inquire the length property to see the length of this array. But ultimately, if I look into the prototype of it, it is an object. So I have added few features like array to it, but ultimately it is an object. So this is what is the array is. Now, if I do add 2, I am going to get back 0, 1, 2, this particular string, right? So in the index fashion, I'm able to retrieve it. If I am doing arr underscore like dot length, I'll be getting back 3. So when you're accessing it, almost look like it's an array, but which is not an array. We have seen the prototype is an object. Also, it doesn't have any other array methods. Only similarity with array it has that its elements are indexed and it has a length property. You can even check that. We have learned this method, right? Array.isArray, where you can pass anything to check whether that particular entity is an array or not. This is going to return you false. If I put it inside a console.log like this, is arr underscore like is an array? Let's see, is arr underscore like is an array? No, it is not an array. But if I check back, is arr underscore like is an object, and check if arr underscore like instance of an object, I think I'm going to get a true over here. So let's see. Yes. So it's an object, but with certain similarities. Now, why do we need it? Or more important question is, why do you have to learn about array like at all? Now, JavaScript as a programming language has used this array-like construct or array-like objects in multiple places. You will encounter them. Let's learn some of them. You know, when you create a function, let's create a function and give a name of this function as check args. Whenever you create a function, the function gets few implicit thing inside to access. One is definitely the this keyword. We know that, like whenever the global execution context gets created, you get a this keyword. But whenever you have a function created, by default, you have a access to a special variable called arguments inside the function. And believe me, this arguments has value. What value it holds? While calling this function, if you pass any arguments, like I have passed 1 and 45 over here, these arguments will have that information about this 1 and 45. So now I have invoked check args using 1 and 45, these two arguments. That means these arguments I'm printing here, it should have the information about 1 and 45. Let's see that. You see over here, it's printed the arguments. If I expand it, 0th index, it has 1, the first argument. On the first index, it has 45, the second argument. It also has a length property 2. But if I look into the prototype of it, it is an object. It is not an array. It looks almost like an array, and it has exactly those array properties that elements are indexed and you have a length. So it means it is an array-like. That's it. Now let's try some array methods on it. What do you say? For example, I can try arguments.pop. Pop is an array method. I'm going to get a type error again, and it says that arguments.pop is not a function. That proves that arguments is definitely not an array. However, forEach, just like the previous example we have seen, if you try forEach to iterate through all these arguments like this is again going to cry saying that forEach is not a function. You're seeing this over here. With the previous example where we had this ordered list and I was querying the DOM to get a HTML collection, that was also an array-like object. So the HTML collection, arguments, all these things are array-like object, and you will be dealing with them in your programming. Now, if you think them as an array and try to invoke the arrays methods, arrays built-in methods, you are going to get errors like this we are seeing on the screen. So that's why it is important for you to know what is an array-like. It is important for you to know, like, once you're dealing with an array-like, how are you going to deal with things if you want to extract data out of it. For HTML collection also, if you expand it, you will see the prototype is an HTML collection. This has 0th first indexed element, length is also there. Now if you expand this prototype, ultimately you will see it is also an object, right? So that is why it is also an array-like. Now let's do a few things to deal with array-like. What do we want to do? So dealing with array-like means when you're dealing with array like, you most probably want to iterate over them because they look like an array, no? So you want to take the elements out of it. So you have to convert those array like to an array so that you can act upon it. So what are the different ways that we can act upon array likes so that we can convert them into array and work on them? One of the way that we can do using the spread operator. We have already learned about the spread operator, those three dots. So on the array like, if you apply the spread operator, which is nothing but a square bracket, and then at the beginning of it, three dots, this is going to convert the array like to an array. Now I'm going to show you this. Instead of doing this thing, I'll print arguments over here. Then I'll do const arg array equals to spread operator arguments, and then I'm going to do console.log of argument array and want to take this argument array instead and want to do a for each on top of it, and then I'm going to do console.log of each of the element inside the argument. Let me put some strings over here so that we can identify them. First one is array like args. Second one will put as converted array args, and then here we are printing each of the elements. Let's see the output of it now. So array like arguments, as you are seeing, this is the arguments. We have seen this, we had expanded it, and we found that the prototype was object. It has indexed element and the length property. Great. Now the converted one, if I expand it, this is a proper array. Excellent. This was an object, we have converted that into an array. It still has those property of indexed elements and the length over here. And now I am able to iterate using the forEach and able to get each of these arguments printed over here. So I know now if I get an array like, how can I convert that to an array so that I can get the best value out of it? There is one more way that you can actually do, and this time let me show you the example of that HTML collection. So another way would be array has a static method called from. Inside this from, if you put an array like, it will return back an array for you. So let's do the same thing over here. I'll do a console.log of HTML collection as array like, and I printed this guy document.getElement by tag name. And then next thing what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass this document.getElement by tag name, which returns an array like, to this array.from, and I will create a variable called say collection array, and then I'm going to print console.log of converted array will be collection array. Correct? Now let's see the output. So first HTML collection, okay, with array like, we have seen that it will be HTML collection. If I go one more level down with the prototype, we'll find ultimately it's an object. But for this converted one, it is now an array. Excellent. Now you will be able to do for each on top of this as well, and able to take out each of the li to do anything on top of it. So I hope array like is clear to you. You understood the purpose of it, and along with it, we have also learned one static method called Array.from. So I can go to my readme.md file and now can check that we understand array like, we understand Array.from. Now let us understand these two methods, Array.fromAsync and Array.of. You know Array.from already, which convert an array like to an array. We have already learned about Array.from method. When will you use that? When you have to convert an array like to an array. So you will pass an array like over here. It is going to return an array for you. As simple as that. Now we are going to learn about another method called fromAsync. What exactly fromAsync is going to do? This is also a static method on array. This will also create a new array just like the array.from does. But one major difference over here, in case of array.from, you get the array directly. But in case of array.fromAsync, you will get a promise as a return, and then you have to handle that promise to get the actual array value out of it. So that's the first difference. The second difference, array.from straightway works with an array like, right? Array.fromAsync also works with async iterable objects. So what is async iterable object? People who have worked with things like readable stream or async generator, all these things, those are all async iterable objects. So if you have asynchronous iterable objects and from there you want to convert or you want to get an array out as a result, that is the time you will be using something called array.fromAsync. Ultimately, it is going to return you a promise because it's an asynchronous operation. The promise is what you need to handle, and then you have to get the actual value out of it. Let's see the examples. This example itself, document.getElement by tag name. We know that it returns us an HTML collection, which is nothing but an array like. Now this particular method called Array.from, I'm going to change to from async, and I get this one. I'm printing this one straight away. Before, Array.from was giving me the array back. I was able to print it. I was able to do forEach and all these things on top of it. But now it is going to give me a promise. You see this converted array. Now it's a promise. This is not giving me the actual array back. Now, as I get a promise, I need to handle this promise. How do you handle the promise? First of all, I'm going to call this as collection promise, not a collection array. And then I'm going to rename here as well. Now I'll be handling the promise. How I'll be handling the promise? To handle the promise, you have a handler function called then, and here you get a callback function which gives you the value if the promise is resolved correctly, and then with that value you can now do console.log of this particular value. If there is an error, you handle it using the .catch, right? So now this particular value from the promise which is resolved to this value, this is what I am doing a console.log over here. Now at the line number 419, I will be able to see this console.log. That is where the actual array value I will get it. You see here, line number 419, this is where I got the actual array back. So it's always return me a promise first, and after that I resolve the promise to get the actual value. Let's do one more example, ground up. Let's do Array.fromAsync. This is a function. Here we are creating an array like ground up. So it will have indexed elements. So first index element and the 0th index, we will do promise.resolve. Let's do a value called tapaScript. Then like that, on the first and second index, we'll have few more values like Google and Apple. So this is my array like, right? This is an array like. Is it? Yes, because it has index element, but it is missing one thing. It's missing length. So I have to give length also as a property, and its length I'm giving as 3. So now this is an array like. On top of this array like, if I'm doing this form async and I am doing const return equals to, and if I do console.log of ret, what am I going to get? On the line number 428, I'm getting again a promise. You see over here the promise I'm getting. Okay, this is good. 428, I'm getting the promise. Now I have to resolve this promise. Now to resolve this promise, I can do it here itself. Dot then it will create a callback function. Here I can get the value, and from here I can extract the value and say console.log of value. Make sense? Now what will happen if I do the return? The promise will be resolved and I'll get the resolved value. So let's see that. Now at the line number 426, I'm getting these 3 resolved value. On the 0th index, I have tapaScript. First index, I have Google. Second index, I have Apple. And then I have this length also 3. But most importantly, this is an array. This is no more an array like. So from this example, it is clear that you have created an array like over here. It returned you a promise. The promise, once you resolve, then only you'll get the converted array, and that is what we are printing over here. Now let's learn about another static method from array is called of. Array.of is a static method that helps us to create a new array instance, just like from async. Here also you create a new array instance, but unlike the previous 2 methods where you were creating the array from array like, here you will create a new array instance from any number of arguments. A very easy method to use. Let's create const a equals to an array, and this time let us create using the array constructor 2, 3, 4. So this is going to create an array of 3 elements, and each of the element will be 2, 3, 4 like this. Now we'll create one more called const b equals to 6. These are the 2 ways that we already know that array can be created. Here it will be creating an array with 4, 5 and 6. Great. Let's create const c equals to array.of, and here you can pass any number of elements. For example, I can pass a number, I can pass a boolean, I can pass a string, I can pass an object, or I can pass another array itself. And this is going to create one array console.log of c that will have all these things as an element. 0th index will have 2, first index will have true, second index will have test, then we'll have this particular object, and last we'll have this particular array. Here we can see the array with 5 elements. The first one is 2, second is true, then test, then the object, and finally the array. So net, whenever you want to create an array with a variable number of elements you have, this is the way that you can actually create using Array.of. So now is the time for another break. And if we see that what we have covered so far, we have now covered all the static array methods in JavaScript along with the array-like. So the last portion that is pending right now is about the array iterator methods. With array iterator methods, we are going to dive into filter, map, reduce, all this thing with real world examples and try to understand how they work internally. That will be the last portion, the last section. And finally, after that, we'll be talking about the task a bit. I hope you are still there with me. There are several ways to iterate through JavaScript arrays. JavaScript language itself provides loops like for, forEach, forOf, forIn, all these things, right? We can use them to iterate through the array and take out the elements. However, the elegance and the power both comes from the fact that when we iterate through the JavaScript arrays in the use case driven fashion. And that is why part of this section, we are going to go over a bunch of iterator functions or the iterator methods, keeping some of the use case, real world use cases in mind. And the first method that we're going to talk about is called filter method. So what is the use case we are talking about here? I have a customer array. You can see this customer array. It has bunch of customers and their details. What kind of details do I have? I have a customer's ID, a customer's first name, a customer's last name, the gender of the customer, whether male or female, then whether the customer is married already or not, customer's age, what kind of expense that a customer is making when the customer is shopping on a shop, and what are the things that they have purchased, individual customer. So for my shop, whoever the customer visited, I just want to know that about the details of them, how much they have spent, and what are the items that they have purchased. Like that, I have a bunch of customers. I see there are 5 customers, and this customer array I'm going to use to teach you different iterator methods that we have in array. So let's get started with filter. You see in this customer array, there is an attribute called age. So some customers age is below 60, some customers age is above 60. So now I'm interested in solving this particular use case, get senior citizens by filtering out other customers. So we have to filter out all the customers and then we have to get the customers who are senior citizen. So when a customer a senior citizen, if the customer's age is greater than equals to 60. If I find a customer whose age is greater than equals to 60, I would consider that customer as a senior citizen customer. This is a perfect example of the use case where I can use the filter method of array. But first, understand how the filter works. This is the syntax of the filter method. We apply the filter method on an array and then it takes a callback function. This callback function, what we call, is also a test function. This particular test function gets applied on every element of an array. Now this is not only for filter. Next we are going to discuss about map, then reduce, find, all these things. Each of this method, each of this iterator method apply this callback function on each element of an array and try to figure out something. Now some methods like filter apply this function on each of the element of an array and try to test a condition. If the condition is true, then it will behave in certain way. If the condition is false, then it will behave in certain way. For filter function, this test function, if it evaluates to be a true as a result, that means the element on which after applying this callback function the result is true, that particular element will be inside the returned array. If the result of applying this callback function on an element is false, then that particular element won't be part of the new array that it returns. So it means it filter it out and then it returns the elements in an array that passes this test condition and returns true. That's why this callback function also takes these arguments. The first argument itself is the element on which JavaScript filter method is applying this callback function. Then index is the index of that element on which JavaScript filter method is applying this callback function. And finally, this array is this particular source array itself. In case you need it inside for some reason, you can use it. But it is optional. You may or may not want to pass it. Now let's look into the use case that we want to solve. We are saying get senior citizens by filtering out other customers. That means if I am going to apply this guy on this particular array, which is like customers, so I'll be replacing this ARR with my customers array. Now this is going to apply on each of the customer. So I can tell this element is my customer. I am not going to use index or array, so I'm going to remove this because those are optional. So inside this test function, what will be my test condition? My test condition will be for each of the customer that I get, I will check, hey customer, is your age greater than equals to 60? If your age is greater than equals to 60, that means if this return true, this particular customer will be part of a new array that filter function returned and it will come here. Let us actually call this new array as senior customers so that it makes sense and connects to our use case. Now for the first customer in this array, which is this guy, is the age greater than 60? No. So that means this particular customer is not going to be part of my return value. For this customer, next customer, 64. Yes. So this is the customer will be part of my new array. Like that, it is going to check for each of the customers over here and then finally going to return an array. Inside that, only those customer will be there whose test condition is passed when this particular condition is passed. So this is why it is called filter, because it is filtering out based on a condition. Now if I do console.log senior customer list and then print out senior customers, I will be able to see the output. So I have senior customers. How many? I have two customers who are senior. One is JD, another is Dev. Let's see what's JD's age. 64. What is Dev's age? Dev's age is 82. So truly, JD and Dev are two customers who are senior citizen who visited my shop today. And with the filter method, I am able to take this out. To give a very high overview about filter method is JavaScript arrays method which takes a callback function which works like a text function that runs on every element of an array. If the test function returns true, then the element on which we are running the test function will be part of the return array. If it is not, it won't be part of the return array. That's why it is called filter, because it has the capability of filtering out certain elements of an array based on a condition that we are providing. Hope you are clear and you are never ever going to forget this. Let's move to the next method. The next method we are interested in learning right now is called map. Now the map method, that's like filter method, it's create a new array, but the use case of it is different. Filter takes a test function, we know, but map takes a transformation function. The whole point of using a map on an array is I want to look into each of the element of an array, and using my logic I want to transform them to something else, and that transformation logic is completely based on your own business case. For me, I can write a transformation logic that I need it for my data. For you, you will be writing completely different business case or the use case or the business logic. So let's understand with the same customer data how to use the map function. Each of the customer is having first name and last name, but the customers doesn't have the full name. Now let us transform the customer data to add a full name into their data. So transform to add title and the full name, both will be adding. What will be the title? We have the gender, right? Whether male or female. If it is male, then we'll say Mr. If it is a female but married, we will say Mrs. and otherwise we'll say Miss. Now I have this gender, I have this married property. I have this first name, I have this last name. But I don't have full name. I don't have a title. So I can now transform the data gender and married to a title and can add new attributes to this customer array for my own usage. That is the purpose and that is the power of map function. How do you write map? The signature is almost similar to what we have seen for filter. So instead of filter, you will do a map. Current value is nothing but the element, each element on which the map is running. Index, this particular element's index, and also this gets an array. These are all optional. Index and the array are optional. So now let us write the thing. I will say this is as customers because we are running it on the customers array. I just need the current value. These are the two things I don't need. Instead of calling it as a current value, let's call it as customer. And what is going to return is going to return me a customer with the full name, also the title, of course. Now I can write the logic over here, my own business logic that will run on each of the customer data and going to return a new array. Inside that, this transformed customer object will be there. Before, for filter, inside this new array, only whatever the test condition passed, only those customer was there. Now here inside this return array, whatever the transformation logic I'm writing, that logic will be applied on each of the customer data. And then after we get the updated customer data, that updated customer data will be added inside this array. Okay, so that is why it is called the transformation function for map, not the test function. So let's write the logic. First, let's create a variable called title. Then we'll check if this customer that we have right now, what is the gender of this customer? If the customer's gender is which is male, in that case we can say title is Mr. Else, if customer.gender is F, means female, and also if customer dot is married, not is married, I think it's married. Yeah, customer dot married. In that case, I will say title is Mrs. Otherwise, let's consider the title is Miss. So I have the title now. Now I have this customer right with me. If you have an object and if you want to add a new property to the object, what you can do? You can always use this square bracket or the dot notation to add it. Square bracket is much more safer because if your property is having a special character, then square bracket works great. So I'll add something called a full underscore name, and then I can do like using the template literals. First I'll get the title and then can give a space, then can have customer, this particular customer again, dot f underscore name. I guess that's the one where the first name is stored. Yeah, and this also will go inside the template literals, and then I'm going to copy this one, giving a space again, and I'll change it to l underscore name. So now I have created a full name of a customer using the title plus first name plus last name. And the final thing that I want to do from here is return the customer itself. So this is again, here you can see the difference. For filter, I was returning a condition. Returning a condition always result into true or false. That's how the test function was working. As for map, the callback is not a test function, it's a transformation function. And you are transforming the input, the customer, with a new logic, with a new kind of data. So you have to return this enhanced customer from here. I have enhanced this customer in the line number 520, right? Because I've added a full name. So now inside these customers with full name, this will be an array, of course. You will have for each of the customer this full name attribute added. And once you print this guy, customer after adding full name, let's see the output. So customer after adding full name, let's see that. Let's go to the first one, Abby. So you have Abby's all other details that you had before, but along with that, we have Abby's full name, Mr. Abby Thomas, because Abby is a male. Let's go to Jerry. Jerry is a male, so you have Mr. Jerry Tom. Let's go to Diana, who is a female. Now we have Miss Diana Cherry because Diana is a female and also Diana is married. Let's go to Maria. Maria is just 7 years old. Of course, Maria is not married. So we are calling Maria as Miss Maria Gomes because Maria is a female and Maria is not married. So you saw that a customer details which didn't have the full name at all, but runtime I am able to add this full name attribute with the value that is computed from all the existing properties, and it's only possible because I have this map method over here. So I hope the usage of the map method, the need of the map method is fully clear to you. Again, you have a lot of tasks given, guys. I want you to do those tasks so that you will not have any fear about using JavaScript arrays and be very, very comfortable, because this is one way you build logic in your programming. Don't shy away from learning. You will be able to rock it. Let's talk about the reduce method. And I believe this particular method is considered as one of the most complex method to understand in JavaScript array. Let me take a stab at it and try to explain it in a way I hope it become much more easier to you. Now let's do some analytics on this particular data. Each of the customers have purchased something. Right? So the analytics we want to learn to know the average age of the customers who have purchased book. So if I see Abby Thomas purchased a book, great. JD hasn't. Here I see book, Diana did it. Dave, but not Maria. So at least 3 people have purchased the book and their age is 82, then 22 and 32. So I want to know what is the average age of people that purchase book, because with this analytics, I can take some decisions. If the average age of the people that purchase book are in the older generation, that means we don't have really something in the shop that younger generation is interested in. That means I need to bring some books which younger generation will be interested in. If I find the average age is like in more towards the younger generation, that means I have to bring something for the older generation. If it is something in the middle, I will say probably is fine, but I need to get something for the older generation. I have to get something for the younger generation also. So the analytics data are going to help me, right? Now, for this purpose, the method that I'm interested in using is reduce. But the question is, why so? Why I have to use the reduce method? You will be using the reduce method to reduce the array's elements value into a single value. So your array will have element. That element could be an object, could be a numeric value, whatever it is. Could be a primitive, non-primitive, anything. But taking each of the elements value, you want to finally create one conclusive single value. If this is your use case, you will be using the method which is called reduce. That's the reduce method's use case. Okay. Now let's do an anatomy of the reduce method first, like how exactly it looks like, what are the things it has inside. A reduce method looks like this. Please pay attention. Previously, for map, we had a callback function. For filter, we had a callback function. The filter function we called as test function. The map one we call as transformation function. Now, for the reduce, it takes actually two arguments. One is a callback function like before, and second is an optional initial value argument. Let's understand them one by one. But first, let's understand them one by one. First is the callback function. We call it as a reducer function. For filter, it is a test function. For map, it's a transformation function. For reduce, it is a reducer function. And each of this function has its own way of working. If you just remember that part, that for filter is a test function, it returns true or false. You will remember filter for lifelong. For map, the callback function is a transformation function which transforms each of the element to something else. You will remember map for lifelong. For reduce, it's a reducer function which reduce the value to something single value. That's a reducer function. You'll remember reduce for a long time. Now, what we're going to do, let's understand the definition of each of this. First is a reducer function. What is a reducer function? A reducer function, which is also called as a callback function, to be called on each element of the array. Just like before, how the test function and the transformation function for filter and map respectively called on each of the element. For reduce also, the reducer function will be called on each of the element. And then it has an initial value. This is an optional value. This initial value is what this accumulator will be initialized with. So if you pass 0 over here, the accumulator value will be initialized with 0. If you pass 1 over here, the accumulator value will be initialized with 1. Okay, just remember that much. Now we are going to go little deeper down to this guy. I'm just taking this up and pasting it over here. Let's talk about the reducer function alone. Now, reducer function has something called an accumulator. Let me just format it a little bit. The accumulator accumulates reducer's return value. What is the reducer's return value? Now, if you imagine this as a function full-fledged, accumulator is initialized with the initial value. That's great. Now, taking this accumulator and this current value, you might want to do something. Do something with accumulator and current value. That's your business logic. Now, after doing something, you get a result. You get a result. Then you return that result. You return that result. Now, once you return that result again set back to this accumulator. So it means that if that return is over here, this return in for the next element, this return will be set to the accumulator. Now, if the initial value is 0, accumulator is first 0. Let's say current value is 1 and I am adding this up over here. So accumulator plus current value will be 1 and I'm returning that value 1 from here. So next, for the next value, the accumulator will be set to 1. Now current value again say become 4. Here I am doing 1 plus 4 is 5. Again I will return the 5. Next, for the next iteration, for the next element in the array, the accumulator will be initialized with 5. That's how it works. So the thing that you will be interested in is accumulator and current value. You won't be interested in much with the index and array, that you might not want to use it. Now with this thing, let us take one simple example. So for example, I have this particular array where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And I want to do a summation of each of those elements. So I want to add them up and want to find out what is the final summation result. So this is a reduced use case because for each of the element, I want to do something to get the final one number or one element or the one value. I'll be calling the reduce on this. So what is the first thing that takes? It takes the reducer function. I can write an arrow function for this, and then I will be passing an initial value. The initial value I can pass is at 0. Now, what are the things that this reducer function take? Reducer function takes an accumulator and the current value. So I will have a accumulator and current value over here, correct? And then what I can do a return of accumulator plus the current value, correct? And then I can hold this everything inside a result. How about that? Let's understand this. So first time this initial value is 0, so accumulator is set to 0. Current value is the first one, number 1. So accumulator was 0, now current value is 1. So 0 plus 1 will return 1. Whatever it returns over here, for the next element 2, accumulator become the previous return value. So accumulator is 1, correct? Current value is now 2. Then current value plus accumulator is 3. So return value will be 3. Now for the next pass, where your element value is also 3, your accumulator is also 3. So 3 plus 3, we have 6. Again it will return. So your accumulator is now 6, but your element is 4. Let's give a comma. So now 6 plus 4 is 10. Now your accumulator is 10. Your last current value is 5. So 10 plus 5 is 15. Now you don't have any more elements, so it won't get called again. So final result is 15. So if I do console.log of result, I can see the result 15 in the line number 550. Yeah, line number 550, I see the result. So if you sum up 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, it will be 15. So now you understand how the reduce works. Now coming back to our use case, the average age of customers who have purchased the book, right? So it means that we have to now apply the reduce on customers, correct? So let's do that. I have customers. Let's apply reduce on top of it. So what is the first thing? First thing is the reducer function. So I'll write it as an arrow function. And then I have to put an initial value. So here also we are going to create an average of the age. That means I have to first sum up the customer's age who has purchased book and then divide by the number of customers who has purchased book so that I get an average, which is also a numeric value. So it makes sense to initialize with 0, the accumulator. Then the next thing would be I'll be passing the accumulator and the current customer into the reducer function. Now the first thing that I can check as per my business logic is if my current customer who is over here dot purchased is an array again. For each of the customer, the purchase is an array. We have learned and a superb array method to check whether array is having a certain element or not is called includes. If it includes book, and here we have to make sure the case is correct. In that case, I have now found a customer who has purchased a book. So now I can take the accumulator, which is initialized with 0 over here, and can do accumulator plus the customer whom am I dealing with and its age. And finally, I do a return of this accumulator. So it means I have now accumulated all the customers age who has purchased book. So I have all the customers age accumulated who has purchased book. But what I need the average age. So it means that I have to know now how many customers have purchased book. How can I do that? There are multiple ways you can solve this problem. But one of the way that you can do it so that you can do it in a same way. One is like, let's keep a count and say count is initialized with 0. And for each of the customer who has purchased book, let's increment the count by 1. So this count variable is going to tell me that how many customers have purchased book. Now you have this accumulator, which is the total number of age that the accumulated age that customer have purchased book, and you also have the count like how many customers have purchased book. So now whatever this accumulator, the final number of age that this reduce function returns, let us take it inside of variable, and now I can add a console.log saying that customer average age purchase book is the total number of age divided by how many customers qualify for this condition like purchase book. And I'm doing a math.flow so that I don't want to show them in the decimal point. So now let's see what is the average age. So the customer average age purchased is 45. So look like the average age is 45 who has purchased book. Now I can take a call, oh, look like middle age people are purchasing more book. Maybe I have to get more book for older generation and the younger generation so that I have a balance in terms of my book purchasing revenue. So I hope that the use cases for reduce is very clear, and the way that we have taken these examples and understood this example is clear. Again, the call out will be to complete the task so that you can understand it better even by yourself. Just like reduce, there is another method is called reduceRight. Not much used like reduce. Also, I feel that this is not much used because not many people are aware that there is something called reduceRight. What happens when you apply the reduce method of an array? It gets applied on each of the element, right? The reducer function. Now, the reducer function gets applied on each of the element from left to right. So first it will be applied on 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. But there will be circumstances where you might want to get from right to left. And in many cases, whether you go from left to right or right to left, the end result might be exactly same. For example, if you are doing a summation, you start from the left, go to right, or start from the right, go to left, the summation will be always, the result will be always be the same. But think that won't be the case for a subtraction operation, isn't it? So what do you think the output will be in this case? What we are doing, we are applying the reduce method, not the reduce method on this number array. So this is going to pick up this 100 first, and the accumulator is not passed. So accumulator will be initialized with the first element of the array. So accumulator will be 100. Let's call it as subs. What will be the output? So output will be 100 minus 40 is 60 because this is reduce, and then 60 minus 15 is what? 45. So subs will be 45. So subs is 45. Correct na? Now if I change reduce to reduceRight, now the difference will be the subtraction will start from this rightmost element and then it will go towards the left. So it will go right to left. So first 15 will come. 15 minus 40 is minus 25. Minus 25 minus 100 is minus 125. Now the result will be minus 125. You're saying now subs is minus 125. So based on your using reduce or reduceRight, the end result is changing in this case. So wherever you want to apply the reduce functions reducer method on the elements from right to left, you will be using reduceRight. If you want to start from left as usual, then you will be using just the reduce method. I hope this is clear. The next method in the pipeline is called sum. The sum method checks if a specified condition is satisfied for at least one element in the array. If the condition is satisfied by at least one element in the array, then we get a return as true. If the test function is not getting satisfied for any element in the array, then we get a false. Okay, let's see what we are talking about. So here is an array with the sum method. Now here each of the element on which sum method will be applied, just like filter map we have learned, and this is what is again called a test function, like filter only. Now this method is going to return either true or a false. It returns true if this particular function results into true on at least one element, then only it will return true. But if there is a case that it is applied on each of the element and for none of the element it returns true or results into true, then in that case alone the sum function is going to return a false. As the name suggests, sum means sum of them. So in this case at least one satisfied means it is going to return true. Now let us solve this use case. Do we have a young customer whose age less than 10 years? Again, I'm referring to our customer database or the customer object. Okay, they have a age property. So age 32, age 64, age 22, age 82, age 7. Yeah, so I have at least one customer whose age is below 10. Can I get this customer using the sum method? Let's do that. So for that, of course, it won't be ARR, it will be the customers array, and I'm going to call this as customer. I don't need this index and array, so I'm getting rid of it. So what will be my logic? What will be my test from here? I'm going to return if my customer dot age is less than 10. So if this is true for any of the customer, what I'm going to get back is whether I have at least one young customer or not. So I have a variable called has young customer. If for first customer, if this is satisfied true, I will get has young customer as true. If it is not for first, it will go to the second, satisfied for true. If not, go to third. If not, go to fourth. Like that, all 5 customer it will scan through and test this condition. If for none of them this become true, ultimately has young customer will be false. But for us, we know whether at least we have one customer whose age is less than 10. There is one customer, isn't it? So let's do console.log of has young customer age less than 10. It should print true. Has young customer age less than 10? Yes, it is true. Now let me tweak this data a little bit. The customer is, of course, Maria. Let me make Maria's age as 17. Now the same code is supposed to return me false because right now in the customer side there is no such customer whose age is less than 10, isn't it? So let me test this out. It returns false. Has young customer age less than 10? There is no such customers. All right. So let me revert back Maria's age to 7 so that we can work with rest of the methods as well. But you know what sum does? Sum basically gives you a true or false based on your test function is satisfied, means returns true for at least one element in the array. If it returns false for all the elements, then this is going to return false for you. That's what we have seen. Let's go to the next method. So just like the sum method, the every method also takes a test function and applies on each of the element of the array and return true if it satisfied for all the elements, every elements of the array. Otherwise return false. In case of sum, if you are getting the result true for at least one element, you will say, okay, sum is returning true. But for every, you have to make sure that this test function has to return true after applying on every element in an array. Then only it is going to return true, otherwise going to return false. Now with this every method, we are going to check whether every customer that visited my shop today are married or not. So for that, this ARR will be now customers. This current element will be each of the customer. I don't need this current index and array, so I'm going to get rid of it. And what will be my logic here? What will be my test function? To check whether each of the customer is married or not. Now, if each of the customers are married, if each of the customer married returning true, then ultimately this is going to return me a true and I'm going to hold it in this variable. Then let me do a console.log. All customer married is all married. I'll give over here. So let's see. All customer married? No, all customer are not married because I have a 7 years old kid who is definitely not married, right? Now, if this customer data changes, let's say Maria become 27 and Maria become married. So Maria is married, Dave is married, Diana is married, Jerry is married, Abby is married. So now everyone is married. So this logic now going to get applied on all the customers turns out to be true. So finally is all married will be true. So let's see the output. Oh yes, is all customer married? Yes, all customers are married. Hopefully you understood the every method as well. So the next method we are aiming to learn is called the find method. With the sum method, we found out, right, that there is at least one customer who is the youngest most customer below 10 years old. Now let us find this particular customer to understand who is that customer. So for that, we will do const found young customer. Take the customers array, same kind of syntax, and on top of this you will do find. Find is the method now, which takes the callback function, which is again a test function that takes each of the customer over here. That's what we are interested in. And then I'll be returning my test logic saying that for each of the customer, check whether their age is less than 10 and find out whether you have such customers or not. Now after that, let's do a console.log and try to see whether we found the customer or not. So we are saying found young customer age less than 10 and this found young customer over here. So let's go ahead and see the log. So we found one customer called Maria whose age is 7. So it's indeed, it is actually matching the test condition over here. Now if it's the case that we don't have any such customer whose age is less than 10, in that case, find method will return a null. Remember this. Otherwise, find method is going to give me the matching result from the array, the matching element from the array. In our case, customer array has customer objects. So it's giving me the matching object, that entire details that matched with this particular condition, which is Maria's details. Okay. So this is about getting a particular element from an array that matches a specified criteria. Now, what if I have to get the index position of that element that matching this particular criteria? In that case, the only thing that I have to change, instead of calling it find, I'll be calling a method called findIndex. Look into this code snippet now. Exactly same, but instead of find, I am using findIndex because I want to know the index of that particular element which is matching this criteria, because we are finding it, right? So this is where I'll be getting young customer index as the index of Maria's, right? Which is the last object in the customer array. Customer array is having 5 customers. The last index will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm expecting the number 4 over here. Let's go ahead and check. Found young customer index, which is number 4. Great. Now, just like find index, there is another method is called find last index. Just like index of, last index of, we have learned, find index always give you the first occurrence starting from the left side of the array. Find last index is going to give you the index of the occurrence from the right side of the array. That's what it is. So it is always going to give you the last matching elements index. So that's why you will be using is called find last index like this instead of find index. So remember this, there is another method called find last index. Similarly, there is one more method which is called last, find last. So what does it do? Find actually again go from the left side of the array to the right side of the array and give you the first match. Find last will start from the right side of the array and give you the element that is found at the last, in the occurrence of the array elements. So you will write the logic in this way. Let's say same thing, but instead of find over here, I have used find last. So this will give me the last found young customer. So if we have 2 young customer, let's change the data a little bit. So I have this 7 years old over here, and I'm going to change this guy Dev as 8 years old. So both are below 10 years old. Now find is going to go from left to right. So this will find Dev first and going to return Dev. But find last is going to go from right to left. So find last is going to find Maria first and going to give me Maria, right? So here this find is going to give me found young customer Dev, and find last is going to give me Maria. So found young customer is giving Dev, you are able to see this, and last found is the Maria. So I hope you understood how it works. Great. Now we have finished a lot. We have finished find index, find last index, all of them. Okay, next I'm going to teach you something very fascinating. You learn about all this method. Now you will be using this method standalone. It means that you will be definitely using methods like filter, map and everything, but there will be time where you will be combining those methods and solving a greater use case. So now let's learn how we can chain this array method to solve a use case which is even more complex. Let's take this use case. Get total amount spent by married customers. Of course, married customers will spend more because they have to take care of the family, kids and everything. So let's understand what is the total amount spent by married customer. And our data structure looks like this. Each of the customer object in the customer array has married as one of the attribute. How much they have spent, that also over there. So how can you find out what is the total amount spent by married customer? Let's break this from this use case itself. That's how you also develop things in real world, right? You get a one-liner requirement. Now you have to translate that one-liner requirement to a code, right? So how do you break it? Get the total amount. So finally, I am looking for something like a single value, which is total amount. So one of the requirement over here to use reduce method. Fine. Spent by married customer. I have a lot of customers, so I have to now filter out and find out who are the married customers. So I need filter as well. So it means that at least I need filter and I need reduce to figure out like who are this married customer. Do I need anything else? Let us go one by one. So how am I going to start with it? First of all, from the customer list, I am going to filter out and find out who are the married customer. How am I going to do it? So first, find all the married customers. The code for that will be very, very simple. I have the customers array. I have done a filtering just like before, and my condition is customer.married. What it is going to do for whatever the customers, this will become true. Those customers will be as part of a new array, which will be assigned to this married customers variable. So this married customers will be now an array. Inside that, only those customers will be there who are married. That's how we have filtered it out. Now you got the merit customer. It's an array. From there, you have to know what is the total amount spent, right? So the total amount spent, you can do a reduce on this one probably directly, or if you want, you can do one more step. This is just for the example purpose I'm showing. From this merit customer, now I will get the list of customer who are merit. Now for each of the customer, there are a lot of details are there. But what I'm interested in only their expense, like each of the merit customer, how much they have spent. So what if I can transform this particular array, which is having lot of details about each of the customer, to another simplified array, which will have only the expenses or the purchase value for each of the customer. So what if I can do a map in between? This is I'm showing just to make this little complex so that we can actually do multiple chaining. So getting the merit customers, I can now map on top of merit customers, get each of the merit customer, find out their expenses. What it will return? This is a transformation method, transformation function, right? For map. So it will return a new array based on what we are returning from here. We are just returning each of the merit customers expense. That means this will be an array. In that only of expenses will be there. Whose expenses? The merit customers expenses. Now this will be an array which is like USD spend, 450 USD spend, 30 USD spend. So this kind of array will be there. Now if you have this array, you can very well apply the reduce on top of it, and you will be able to reduce to the total amount, the final amount. Just need to sum this up, right? 200 plus 450 plus 30 will be the final amount. So now total expense done by the merit customers, you will do a reduce. You will get this particular array of all the expenses. You will do reduce. You will get each of the element out. Of course, it is initialized with 0. And then each of the expenses, you are adding it up and you get the total expenses by the merit customer. Finally, if I print it, I get total expenses by the merit customer in INR or USD, whatever it is. This is the value I am printing. So let's see that total expense of the merit customers in INR is 2,190 rupees. That much all the merit customers have spent. Now here we got the output, but we have written too much of code. Now beautiful part over here is you can chain all these things. How we can chain? So this filter is returning this guy, right? This is what we are using over here. This returning this guy. This is what we are using over here. Then we have the final one. So first customers.filter, if I do whatever it returns, if I have to grab that return value and pass it to map, what I'll be doing, just check this out. I am going to delete everything from here, take it over here, dot map. Okay. Now whatever the return value from here to here, on that automatically the map will be applied. Okay. Now if I just remove things from here to here and then take the reduce over here, now after filtration, after map, whatever the value that comes over here, on top of that reduce will be applied. And then everything I can call is the total expense. And this total expense is what I can actually print over here, correct? By the merit people. So now the code is much more simplified. I have not written too many lines of code. First I have applied filter, then I have applied map, then I have applied reduce, and the accumulative value is over here. This is what I'm printing over here. Now if I see the value, it should be same like before, same as 2190 INR or Indian rupees. So I hope it makes sense to you, and in many cases you'll be using this chaining. You will first slice and dice your data using maybe map, then you'll be applying filter, then you'll be applying find, then you'll be applying reduce. Based on your use cases, you can keep chaining them. I hope you find it useful. Oh man, we have come a long way, isn't it? But last four methods are left, and with that we are done with this array master course. So many things we have covered so far. I'm really feeling proud of doing it. I'm sure that if you are till here and just four more methods left for you, you will be feeling proud of taking this as well. If so, please do a comment, let us know that you have almost completed it or going to complete it very soon. It'll be really great seeing that. Okay, so for each method, entries, values, and flat map, let's cover them one by one. So for each method is for iterating over array elements, and it's execute a particular function that we provide as a callback to the for each. Okay, how it works, let's see. Let's take an array of 5 elements. Now I can apply for each on top of it. How can I do that? I can do arr dot for each, and here I'll be passing a callback function. Now inside the callback function, it will receive each of the element. So I'll do element as a parameter that I'm passing over here. Now if I simply do a console.log of elem, what it is going to do, it is going to loop through and it is going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the console.log. I can see it over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Now, if I want, I can also do a summation of all these elements, right? So I can take something like let sum equals to 0, and then over here, sum equals to sum plus each of the element, and then finally once the for each loop is over, console.log of sum using for each comma sum. So I'll get a summation of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5. I got the sum using for each is 15, of course, correct. Now I'm able to do this summation using for each. Then what is the use of reduce that we have learned, or rather what is the use of map we have learned? So one of the things, one of the key difference that you have to remember over here, the for each is just going to iterate over each of the element. And of course, using that element, what you are going to do, that concern you have to manage outside of for each also. Here I'm going to do sum, I'm managing the sum outside of it, because for each is not going to return anything to me. For map was returning me an array with the transformation done. For reduce was returning me a single value, the after reduction, right? For each is not going to return me any such thing. That's the reason if you're going to perform all this operation using for each, you have to do outside of his concern. You have to manage things outside of his concern, and then you have to return the variable or have the variable accordingly. Now let's take the same ARR, array of numbers, and learn another method called entries. And we'll use the same to learn values as well. So what does entries do? If I do arr dot entries, this is going to return me an array iterator. What is an array iterator? Let's see. Const array iterator equals to arr dot entries. So I'll do console dot log of array iterators arr.itr. All right, so let's go ahead and check what's in the output. So array iterator, I find an array iterator object. You see here, arr.itr iterator is an array iterator object. Now, once you get an iterator, one thing that you can do, you can call a method called next on it and can get a value from it. So what exactly is going to return? Let me see. This is returning me two, an array of two elements. First one is 0, second one is 1. What does it mean? The first element is nothing but the index. The second element, what is the value in that index? So if I see the array again, the first element, 0th element is 1. It means that on the 0th index, the element 1 is there. So the first return it given me is like this, 0, 1. That means on the 0th index, I have the value 1. If I do this one more time, same thing, I'll do it one more time. So I'll go to the next value now. Now it will say on the first index, I have the value 2. So I will have both of them printed. See, on the first index, I have value 2. 0th index, I had value 1. So iterator is an object. You can query the iterator object using .next.value to get the value of each of the index that the array is having. But ideally, you won't be getting out the value in this fashion. Rather, there is a loop called for-of loop. You are going to use the for-of loop. So how we will be using? For what is the iterator? You have to put the iterator over here, and before iterator we'll be putting the of keyword. And in this iterator, if you have seen, it is giving me an array, right? For each of the iteration, it is giving me an array. The first element is the index and the second element is the actual item. So it means if it is an array, we have learned about the array destructuring, isn't it? If we have an array, we can now do the destructuring to create two variables called index and element, and assign the value 0 to the index variable and the value 1 to the element variable. So here at the left side, I can do const index comma element. Correct? This is the destructuring, the real usage of destructuring you have learned now. So here I'll be doing console.log of index comma element. So now I'll be looping through each of the element of that particular array using its index and can print the index and the element. I don't have to do it with this next one by one. And let's see the output of this for of. On 0th index 1, first index 2, second index 3, third index 4, fourth index 5th. Right? We're able to get it. So this is where entries is useful to get the array iterator, and then you can iterate over the array iterator using the for of loop. While doing that, you can use the array destructuring to get both index and element out. Entries done. Let's get into values. The difference between entries and values are a bit. For example, the similarities first, let's first talk about. If I do arr dot values, this also going to return an array iterator. Okay. Now if I do const array iterator 2 equals to this. So array iterator 2 will be an iterator. Inside that, what will be there? In this case, you had both index and the value, but in this case, you will have only value. Okay. So as you have only value, you can still use the for of loop, because for of loop is the one to apply on the iterator. So you will be doing iterator, before that you will be doing of, and before that, as it returns only value, you don't have to really destructure it to get both index and value. You can directly do const value of iterator 2, and you can do console.log of value directly from here. Okay. So now if I go to the console, I can see only the values are printed over here, right? No index. Previously for entries, I had index and the value, but for values, I have only taken the value. So that's the difference between entries and value. In case of entries, we get both index and element. In case of values, we get only the value, both from the array iterator objects. Hope this is crystal clear to you. Wow, the last method, flatMap. What exactly flatMap does is a combination of both flat and map basically. So you have an array and we apply flatMap on top of it. It will take the callback function and will apply the callback function on each array. After that, it will use the flat method to flattening the result by one level. We know with the flat method, we used to flattening the result by one level. That's what it is going to do. But after applying the callback function to each of the element, through which you can do some transformation because it's a map, and then again flattening the array. Let's see some examples. Let's take a variable arr1 with again a bunch of numbers. Now you know what is this going to do. This is a map function, and this is where we have the transformation function. So this is going to be applied on each of the element, and this is just doubling the element. So if it is 1, this will become 2, 2 will become 4, 3 will become 6, 4 will become 8. So if I put this inside console.log and put like simple map, so the value will be an array 2468. So simple map 2468, I can see. Now instead of map, if I use flatMap, same thing, I'm just copying it and saying simple flatMap, and let me use flatMap over here. What will be the output? The output in this case will be exactly same, because first it will map, that means 2468, then try to flat that array. But here there is nothing to flat because the array is already in one level 2468. So there is nothing to flat. So it will be again 2468 in both the cases. So both the cases it is 2468. Now let's take one more example, a little bit more complex. Now instead of doing the transformation of doubling the item, now we'll be returning after doubling each of the item inside an array. So it means now we are creating a new array. In this, each of the element is an array, and that element will have a value by doubling the element from here. So it will have things like, first we'll have 2, an array, then we'll have 4, another array, then we'll have 6, another array, and so on, right? That's how it will be. So that means we are creating a nested array using this map method. I'll say it is complex map, not a simple map, complex map. So let's go and see the output. Complex map is array of array. If I expand it, in first element there is an array with 2, second element another array with 4, third element 6, fourth element 8, this way. Now on the same thing, if I just copy this guy out and paste it over here, if I use flatMap here, if I say it flatMap, now first it will create the map. So that means it will create this 2468 nested array. Then it will flattening. Now the output over here will be the flattening version of it, as if we have called array.flat and passed this nested array. So this will all become what? The first level flattening. So it will become 2468. So if I go to this guy, I'll see that this one, the complex flat map become 2468. Now, can you tell me what will be the output for this two? Instead of one level array, I have put it another level over here, and then I'm doing a flat map. So there's a question for you. Let me know what will be the output of it and why the output will be like this. You'll be finding similar thing in the task as well. So I hope the flat map is also clear to you. All right, so let's talk about the task. So the tasks are listed over here and it's listed in an order. In the order that we have learned everything, the tasks are also listed. So you will start with something very simple as if create an array of 5 elements using array constructor. Create an array with 3 empty slots. Then how are you going to using the for loop? Then, take out the last 8 food items from the array that I have specified at the top. You're creating an array over here and then you're doing something with this array. Then you'll get into the complexity where you'll be handling an employee array. From there, you will be using the methods to do something with this. So right now I have already added close to 50 tasks over here, and I'm going to bump it up with another 20 more. By the time you are getting this video, you are going to get 70 plus tasks to do and practice. Let me know what you think about it. You are not only getting a master course to learn things end to end, but also a task list to practice it and get ready for your interview. If you understand objects well, if you understand arrays well in JavaScript, most of your problem solving are sorted. You know how to deal with the data, how to slice it, dice it, and build applications. Please use it and use it to the fullest. And I wish you all the best. So that's all. I hope it was useful to you. I hope you learned something new. And if that is the case, please post a comment, like this video, and if you have more questions, don't forget to post that question in the comment as well. I also have a Discord server that you can come to and post your questions, post your queries. So you can see like people keep posting their questions over there, and from community people come and answer the questions. So if you want, you can join my Discord server. It's called tapaScript. You can find the link to join to this Discord server in the description of this video. And along with that, it will be great to have you as a subscriber to tapaScript channel. This is where I teach JavaScript, React, full stack engineering, open source career, and all this kind of topic. You can find plenty of videos out over there. And recently I'm running an initiative called 40 Days of JavaScript. I hope you enjoy that as well. So looking forward to see you on tapaScript very soon. Take care everyone. Keep learning and always give your best to learn programming well with hands-on practices. See you soon.